Chapter 2479. Wow, that's so cool. The spectral dragon can really talk. That's incredible. Do dragons turn into this after they die? This is the first time I've seen it. I wonder how the spectral dragon feels to the touch. What's the difference between it and us living dragons? Let's go and touch it. It's too unbelievable. I'm afraid the other dragons will be scared to death if word of this gets out. Betty and the other young dragons weren't afraid at all. Instead, their eyes lit up as they looked at the spectral dragon, as if they were looking at a rare animal. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They moved quickly and climbed onto Theodore's enormous body. Some of the young dragons grabbed onto Theodore's beard and climbed up along it, swinging on it. Some of the young dragons rode on its head, jumping and cheering everywhere. Some of the young dragons lay on the tip of its tail and slid down, using its tail as a slide. Some of the young dragons touched and pinched everywhere, as if trying to figure out how the spectral dragon was different from other dragons. Some even tried to pluck out the scales on Theodore's body, but they were too hard and couldn't be pulled out. Why, you brats, get out of my sight. The invisible dragon Theodore was furious. No matter what, he was a dragon that had once reached the invincible realm, a being that stood at the pinnacle of the universe. A single word from him could cause the death of countless lives in the starfield. He held great power, but now it was being treated as a toy by these young dragons, crawling all over its body. What did they think it was? A playground. They even wanted to feel what it felt like to touch it. Bullshit. How could the great Theodore be touched by other dragons just because they wanted to? But now its body was completely bound by the soul-locking chains like a prisoner. Even its power had been sealed by Xiaoping's 6 Dao seals, and it couldn't use any of its power at all. It was helpless in the face of these mischievous young dragons. This was truly a case of a fallen tiger being bullied by dogs. The grievance in its heart couldn't be described with words. This is the invisible dragon, Theodore, who once reached the invincible realm. Seeing this scene, Yi Mengyao was speechless, and the corner of her mouth twitched. If the giant dragons of the Dragon God Shrine saw this invincible dragon, who used to be majestic and stood on the top of the universe, in this state, they would be so shocked that their jaws would drop. However, she was also very surprised. Just what kind of method did Xiaoping use to capture the invisible dragon? Because she knew that even though the invisible dragon Theodore was extremely weak due to the accident, as a giant dragon of the invincible realm, it must have a lot of tricks that ordinary people couldn't imagine. If that wasn't the case, Theodore the shapeless dragon would not have deliberately leaked the ruins and lured so many holy dragons into it. But even so, the formless dragon Theodore had still fallen into Xiaoping's hands and become his prisoner. One could imagine how inconceivable Xiaoping's abilities were that even the formless dragon Theodore couldn't do anything to him. Xiaoping, what are you going to do next? Now that you've obtained the invisible dragon Theodore's relic, I'm afraid you've become a public enemy. It'll be hard for you to continue living in the dragon realm. Yi Mengyao transmitted her voice through divine sense. Don't worry about that. This relic was painstakingly built by the formless dragon Theodore. I don't know how many resources were spent on it. Even if an invincible realm giant dragon wanted to come in, it wouldn't be easy. It can be said that this place is the safest lair. Even if the other giant dragons knew that we're humans, they wouldn't be able to do anything to us. Xiaoping smiled. After taking control of the invisible palace, it was equivalent to taking control of the restriction formation of the entire relic cave abode. He also knew this place like the back of his hand and was extremely familiar with it. Therefore, he had a clear understanding of how powerful the defensive restriction formation of the cave abode was. It could only be said that the formless dragon Theodore was indeed the most fearful of the invincible dragons. It had gone to great lengths to build its lair and consumed a huge amount of resources in the universe. In order to prevent the invincible realm giant dragons from entering its relic and wreaking havoc, it had also set up many powerful space restriction formations that contained the powerful power of the laws of space. If the invincible realm dragons tried to forcibly destroy the relic cave abode, they would immediately trigger the space restriction formations and instantly teleport the invincible dragons into the dark forbidden zone. As for the giant dragons below the primordial dragon realm, they would not be able to cause any trouble in the relic cave abode. Of course, they could also slowly break the restriction formations of the cave abode. However, it would take a lot of time and at least 100 million years to do so. Therefore, it was safe for him to stay in the cave abode during this period of time. I see. Yi Mingyao finally understood why Xia Ping was so confident. It was indeed the safest place to stay in the relic cave abode. Moreover, we can also use the relic cave abode to capture the giant dragons who came here to train. We can also guarantee that nothing will happen to the Dragon God Shrine. Xiaoping smiled. The trial in the core of the cave abode was originally set up by the formless dragon Theodore to choose a giant dragon that was suitable for his physical body. It could be said that this place was a place with a slim chance of survival. Once they entered, the fate of the giant dragons would be sealed. The other dragons were also aware of this. He could use this situation to enter the space maze and seal the dying giant dragons one by one, imprisoning them all in his classic of mountains and seas. Therefore, even if the Dragon God Shrine knew that many giant dragons had disappeared after entering the space maze, they would only think that they had died in Theodore's trial instead of being captured by Xiaoping. This way, he could silently capture a large number of giant dragon slaves. After all, the area of the classic of mountains and seas had become even larger. It had expanded into 33 layers of heaven, and the area of the land inside was unbelievably large. It was like a small universe. It could be said that the classic of mountains and seas was currently in a period of development, and it needed a lot of labor. Without a doubt, these giant dragons were the best labor. They were strong, had great endurance, had long lifespans, and didn't need much rest. They were the best targets to exploit. Hearing this, Yi Mingyao was speechless, not knowing how to respond. If the elders of the Dragon God Shrine knew about this, they would probably go crazy with anger. Capturing so many giant dragons in the dragon world just to make them do hard labor was a waste of resources. This kind of hard labor was so extravagant that it made people's hair stand on end. She didn't know how to describe it, and she had never even thought about it. Poverty really limited her imagination. Chapter 2480. All right, you little fellows, stop causing trouble here. Enter the classic of mountains and seas for me. Xiaoping was speechless when he saw Fortune Dragon Betty and the other young dragons still excitedly playing with Invisible Dragon Theodore. He made a grabbing motion and immediately threw the young dragons and Invisible Dragon Theodore into the world of the classic of mountains and seas. At this moment, there were a total of 33 worlds in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. The last world was where Xia Ping and the others usually lived. The maids, the black hole worm, the tree men, and the others would all live in this world. As for the other 32 worlds, the Green Bull had divided them into places for planting spiritual grains and herbs. The laborers who had been captured would live in these worlds. Of course, without permission, they couldn't leave this world. Only those who had obtained permission had the right to enter and exit the 33 worlds at will. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Fortune Dragon Betty and the other young dragons felt their figures flicker and appear in another world, while Invisible Dragon Theodore was temporarily imprisoned. Wow, what is this place? It doesn't seem like the Dragon Realm, but it does seem a little similar. Memory Dragon, Mabel looked around curiously. She found that she seemed to have left the ruins of the Invisible Dragon and arrived in an unfamiliar place. She sensed that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth around her was incomparably rich, and it also contained an enormous amount of dragon origin energy. Although it could not compare to the origin energy deep in the core of the Dragon Realm, compared to some remote places, it was still an excellent place for cultivation. In reality, the classic of mountains and seas had fused with the dragon core of the Invisible Dragon and possessed the dragon origin energy of an invincible realm dragon. This kind of energy was scattered to every corner of the classic of mountains and seas, turning this place into a place similar to the Little Dragon Realm. Even if dragons entered this world, they would not feel the slightest discomfort. Instead, they would think that it was similar to the dragon realm. Moreover, the dragon core of an invincible realm dragon had already formed a complete world, endlessly growing and turning into a perfect cycle. It could devour the origin energy of a universe and transform it into dragon origin energy. Therefore, the origin energy that was constantly scattered around the classic of mountains and seas would not become less and less. On the contrary, as the classic of mountains and seas grew stronger, the dragon origin energy of this world would also become denser, and it might even become a holy land for cultivation like the dragon realm. Caw. This place is a private world owned by adult dragons. It's a place completely different from the dragon world. Betty, the dragon of destiny, looked like she knew everything. Those giant dragons that were captured were imprisoned here, unable to leave for the rest of their lives. It can't be. Could it be that we're too naughty, so the adult dragons want to imprison us in this world? Hearing this, the gluttonous dragon Austin almost cried in fear. One idiot. Fate Dragon Betty said disdainfully, "Of course not. How are we naughty? The adult dragons must have been worried that we would be bored, so they put us in this world to play. I heard that in this world, there are many races that adult dragons have captured from other worlds. There are even humans." She had a serious look on her face. Human? It can't be, right? Are you talking about the legendary super demons that eat anything, and even us giant dragons? Hearing this, even the drowsy Constance woke up with a start. She could not help but widen her eyes as she looked at Betty in disbelief. In the dragon realm, some adult dragons demonize humans to scare the young dragons not to be naughty. They said that if they were naughty, they would be captured and eaten alive by humans. Humans were like demons in the eyes of the children in the dragon realm. But there were also young dragons who scoffed, thinking that it was just a story to scare the children, because they had never seen what a real human looked like. That's right, it's the legendary humans. Fate Dragon Betty nodded seriously. Anyway, we have to be careful in this world. Don't get caught by humans, or we will be roasted and eaten. Yeah, don't worry, big sis. We will never be caught by humans. Sleeping Dragon Constance and the rest of the young dragons nodded with a cautious look. And other than humans, there are creatures that are completely different from the giant dragons in this world. Everyone must be careful. Fate Dragon Betty had never been to the world of the classic of mountains and seas, but she had heard some information from Xia Ping, so she remembered it. Asterisk kaboom. Asterisk, but just as she finished speaking, there was a loud rumble from afar. It was like an earthquake, and everything was shaking. Then, treants that were tens of meters tall and hundreds of meters tall walked past them. At that moment, all the young dragons were stunned. Big sis, the trees here can walk on their own. Time Dragon Caesar's eyes widened in shock. In the dragon realm, all the trees were stationary, and they would never walk like living beings. But what was happening now? There were so many trees, and they even had noses, eyes, and mouths. They were walking on the ground in unison like draconians. For a moment, they were dumbfounded. Run. Fate Dragon Betty screamed. While the power of fate did not warn her, the trees were too scary, and they did not look like normal trees. Asterisk, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Asterisk, as soon as she finished, the young dragons fled in fear, not daring to stay where they were. They ran out of the forest at an unbelievable speed. What's going on? Such a commotion also alerted a Treant elder who was moving forward. Reporting to Elder, it seems like a group of young dragons invited by Lord God has accidentally entered the forest. A Treant also noticed the presence of Fate Dragon Betty and the other young dragons. I see. Then there's no need to care about it. Now that this world has benefited from Lord God's power, it seems to have become more vast and boundless. According to Lord God's orders, we must plant a large number of trees, flowers, and other plants in this world to increase the vitality of this world. The Treant elder cackled. Hee, how exciting. Looking at the trees growing strong and the whole world covered in green, it really makes one happy. This world is so beautiful. Praise Lord God. We are all very energetic when we work. Oh, stop talking nonsense. Let's get to work. I can't wait to see the forests rise from the ground. Trees, trees, let's plant this world full of trees. The trants cried out excitedly and even sang. To the tree people, it was their mission to cultivate dense forests. Just like how humans wanted to expand their country's territory, no matter how many dense forests they cultivated, they would never be able to satisfy the tree people's appetite. Chapter 2481. Half an hour later, Fate Dragon Betty and the other dragon whelp sprinted all the way as if they didn't care about their lives. They finally ran out of the forest. Phew! At this time, the Fate Dragon Betty heaved a sigh of relief. That forest is really too dangerous. Fortunately, we ran fast, or else we might have been eaten by that group of strange trees. This world is really scary. Even trees can walk, have mouths, noses, eyes, and so many hands and feet. It's scary to death. Hum. The other dragon whelps couldn't help but nod in agreement. Luckily, they were smart and decisive. Otherwise, they might have been eaten by those weird trees in the forest. Wait, there are weird creatures over there too. Suddenly, slow dragon whales pointed at a plane in front of them. There was a group of weird creatures there. That's really weird. Why don't they have horns? Look, their wings are also very strange. They actually have feathers. It seems to be very weak, Wang Zhong said with a smile. Oh my god, there are some without hair. They're bald. Fate Dragon Betty and the other dragon whelps widened their eyes, looking at the scene before them in disbelief. Many maidservants appeared in front of them. They were rabbit-eared maidens, angel maidens, winged maidens, mermaid maidens, fairy maidens, angel maidens, cat-eared maidens, rabbit-eared maidens, snake maidens, arhut maidens, azura maidens, sucking blood maidens, and so on. Almost all the races in the universe appeared in this place. However, such races didn't exist in the dragon world. To these dragon whelps, they had never heard of them. They hadn't even heard of rumors. All of a sudden, these dragon whelps were stunned. It was an eye-opener. Look, there seems to be a tycoon dragon over there. Gluttonous dragon Austin immediately shouted, pointing at a little lowly in front. Fate Dragon Betty and the other dragon whelps looked in the direction Austin was pointing. They immediately felt a glint of jewels. It was as if they were blinded by the light of the jewels. A little lowly wearing a crown appeared in front of them. It was embedded with many universe jewels. Every one of them was priceless. Any one of them could buy an entire city. Moreover, the clothes that this little lowly was wearing were all made of gold. They were also very luxuriously inlaid with a large number of precious gems, as if they were free. Everyone could see that this little lowly was so rich that it made people's hair stand on end. To be honest, they had seen many rich dragons in the dragon realm, but they had never seen such a tycoon dragon. It was as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know that he was rich, so he wore jewelry all over his body. Although this behavior was very unsophisticated in the eyes of other races, in the eyes of the WIRMS, this was simply a super rich person, a superstar existence that stood at the top of many WIRMS. How extravagant and wealthy was it to be able to wear gems all over one's body? Even if they wanted to do such a thing, they couldn't do it. This little lowly was the golden slime, Xiao Jin. Oh, are you new here? The golden slime, Xiao Jin, also saw the group of dragon whelps. In a flash, she appeared in front of the group of dragon whelps and looked at them expressionlessly. What do you want? The dragon of destiny Betty and the other dragon whelps said weakly. As poor people, they felt that they didn't have any confidence to speak in front of a tycoon. It was as if they would be despised as a country bumpkin at any time. They were instantly overwhelmed by Xiao Jin's aura. It's good that you're new. Since it's our first meeting, I'll give these gems to you. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. With a clatter, the golden slime, Xiao Jin, waved her hand and immediately threw out a pile of colorful gems. The glint of the pearls blinded the eyes of all the dragon whelps. Big sister, the dragon of destiny Betty and the other dragon whelps were immediately convinced. With a smack, they laid limply on the ground, completely convinced. They had never seen a WIRM that was so rich that she was actually willing to share her gems with other dragons. After all, which ordinary dragon wouldn't keep the gems for themselves and hide them in their own caves? They wouldn't even give a single gold coin to other WYRMS. They were extremely stingy. However, what was up with this tycoon dragon? He was so rich that he didn't even care about the gems. It was clearly their first meeting, but he actually gave a pile of gems as a greeting gift. This was too much. Faced with such an attack of money, they couldn't resist at all and were instantly corroded by the sugar-coated cannonball. Even the Dragon of Destiny Betty was the same. As WYRMS, they couldn't resist the charm of the gems at all. Their eyes formed the shape of gems, and they were extremely excited. Hee, a bunch of country bumpkins who haven't seen the world. At this moment, a voice sounded from the side. What? Hearing this, the Dragon of Destiny Betty and the other dragon whelps were filled with anger. They immediately looked towards the source of the voice, but when they saw the person who spoke, their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Because the one who spoke was actually a little lowly, but she had two huge dark circles around her eyes like a panda. She seemed to have not slept for many days, and her hair was as messy as a bird's nest. They felt that this little lowly was even poorer than them, no different from a beggar dragon. For a moment, they felt that they had become rich, and they couldn't help but straighten their backs. What kind of look is that? What kind of look is that? Why are you looking at me with such pitiful eyes? Seeing this scene, that little lowly was instantly enraged. She was extremely frustrated. She felt that, as the Black Hole Worm King, she was actually being looked down upon by this group of weak dragon whelps. Her pride couldn't accept it for a moment. She looked a little decadent now, but that was because she had worked hard for 3 days and 3 nights to play the game. However, this group of despicable dragon whelps actually dared to look down on her. This was a group of shallow dragon whelps who judged people by their appearance. They had no foundation at all, and she didn't want to be associated with them. The group of dragon whelps chuckled. They couldn't be bothered to talk to this kind of beggar dragon because they were afraid that they would be pestered and asked for money. Friends, I wonder if you've heard of the greatest king competition? With a swoosh at this moment, another lowly with messy hair like a bird's nest and 2 huge dark circles around her eyes appeared silently in front of this group of dragon whelps. Her body emitted an inexplicable decadent and dark aura. Just like a black hole, it could pull any life into the abyss of depravity at any time. It was as if she was a dark demon king from the abyss of the end of the world. What? The Dragon of Destiny Betty's heart couldn't help but tighten. She seemed to have sensed that the future of fate was dark. She seemed to have been pestered by a super big trouble, and it was the kind that she couldn't get rid of no matter what. Chapter 2482. At that moment, in the world of the classic of mountains and seas, Xia Ping was in a cave, and in front of him was a sacred medicine that he had obtained from the invisible palace, the infinite pure yang fruit. It was about the size of a fist, and its body was densely covered with law of fire patterns. From afar, it looked like a small sun that emitted eternal energy. Its surface temperature was 18,000 degrees Celsius, which was enough to melt most of the substances in the world. Its internal temperature was more than 100 times higher. It could be said that ordinary cultivators would probably not be able to get close to this sacred medicine. Just getting close to it would be like getting close to a star, and they would be burned to ashes by the eternal heat. In fact, this sacred medicine was only able to be nurtured from the depths of a star after accumulating endless stellar energy. This sacred medicine contained an extremely large amount of pure yang energy. If an ordinary person were to consume it, they would immediately be able to cultivate a pure yang body and be born with the ability to control the law of fire. Of course, he had the golden crow of hell bloodline, so he naturally did not need to cultivate a pure yang body to cultivate a golden crow of hell body. However, this sacred medicine was extremely beneficial for him to awaken the golden crow of hell bloodline. After obtaining this sacred medicine, the bloodline in his body immediately throbbed and yearned for it, as if it was ecstatic. Therefore, after everything was done, he didn't say a word and immediately went into closed-door cultivation to consume the infinite pure yang fruit. As for capturing the giant dragons that were trapped in the maze, he could leave it to his clones. There is no need for him to do it himself, as it would be too much of a waste of time. What a great treasure! In an instant, Xiaoping ate the infinite pure yang fruit without hesitation. The fruit melted in his mouth and instantly turned into a mass of solidified molten lava. Every drop of molten lava contained the energy essence of a star, and it was incredibly dense. It flowed into his limbs, bones, and even every cell. At that moment, the 70 billion golden crow of hell cells in his body were in a trance, as if they were extremely eager to devour this pure yang energy without any impurities. To the golden crow of hell, this was the best nourishment for growth. This feels good. Xiaoping felt an unprecedented restraint. If this magma energy flowed into someone else's body, they would probably be burned to ashes immediately. There was no way they could withstand such an extremely domineering star essence. In reality, not all sacred medicines were suitable for ordinary people to consume. If an ordinary person consumed this sacred medicine, even a little bit of it would be burned to ashes in an instant. After all, this was the energy essence of star. It emitted endless heat at every moment. Such a star's essence was now concentrated inside a fruit. One could imagine how powerful this sacred medicine was. How could it be something ordinary people could come into contact with? Even ordinary sages would find it difficult to devour these stellar essences, let alone ordinary people who could not come into contact with them. This was because the energy contained in these stellar essences was too violent. If these sages were to consume it and were unable to refine it, it would cause the violent star essence to run amok in their bodies. It might even harm their souls. Therefore, this saint medicine was considered poison to most sages. However, to him, who possessed the bloodline of the golden crow of hell, this pure yang energy was the most precious life essence. It was as if it was natural food and nourishment for his growth. Whoosh! When these stellar essences surged into Xiaoping's body, every golden crow of hell cell in his body was greedily devouring them, promoting the growth of his golden crow of hell bloodline. It was as if his entire body was soaking in a hot spring. It was as if, at this moment, he was evolving at every moment, as if he had broken a certain limit. 100 million, 1 billion, 2 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion. The golden crow of hell cells, which had not been awakened for a long time, began to awaken crazily with the help of the infinite pure yang fruit. After awakening, the golden crow of hell cells integrated into the depths of Xiaoping's bloodline. His muscles, skin, meridians, blood vessels, bones, and other parts of his body were further strengthened by the awakening of the golden crow of hell cells. Even his soul was fully tempered by this sacred power, as if it had been tempered thousands of times. Every blood vessel in the depths of his body was flowing with turbulent magma energy. It was extremely hot. With Xiaoping's body as the center, circles of condensed violent heat were also emitted. It was as if hundreds of light years around him had been burned into ashes. It was extremely hot. Beams of crimson light pierced through the void, shining brightly and pervasively. It was as if these light beams could melt metal and melt iron. Fortunately, Xiaoping was in the classic of mountains and seas, a peerless sacred artifact, and benefited from the isolation of the classic of mountains and seas. Otherwise, the many mighty figures in the dragon realm would definitely notice such an abnormal state of cultivation. Moreover, if it was a high-grade sacred artifact, the classic of mountains and seas, it would probably be a little difficult to withstand such heat. However, after advancing to a peerless sacred artifact, this was child's play. 7 days and 7 nights passed in a flash. At this moment, Xiaoping finally devoured all the star essence of the infinite pure yang fruit, taking it for himself. At this moment, the number of golden crow of hell cells in his body had also awakened to 100 billion. It was as if the bloodline in his body had reached a critical point, and all the power of his bloodline was undergoing a metamorphosis at this moment. It was as if an earth-shattering change had taken place. In particular, every single bone in his body had been corroded by the golden crow of hell's blood and tempered into a dark gold color. Dense nomological patterns also appeared on the surface of the dark gold bones. It was as if these bones had turned into godly bones, containing hints of imperishable characteristics. They were extremely tough and indestructible. Even if Xia Ping were to die right now, these bones would probably remain in his body. Even if countless epochs passed by, these godly bones would not turn to dust and would exist eternally. If these bones were to be refined into magic treasures, they would definitely be top-notch magic treasures that could become peerless sacred artifacts. They might even contain powerful laws of hell and fire. Thanks to the support of these dark gold, godly bones, the power in his body skyrocketed even further. It was as if the genes in his body had undergone a further metamorphosis at this moment. At the same time, Xia Ping's soul force had also undergone a tremendous evolution. If it were before, the range of his divine sense would only be 700 light years. However, it had now expanded to a range of 1,000 light years, which was an increase of 30% to 40%. With such a powerful divine sense, even the ancient sages were probably only at this level. However, to Xia Ping, this was merely a side effect. The most important thing was that after awakening 100 billion golden crow of hell cells, he had finally awakened a new bloodline ability. Chapter 2483. This bloodline mystic power. Xia Ping's pupils constricted as he sensed the information coming from the depths of his bloodline. He could feel that this newly awakened bloodline mystic power was so powerful that it made his hair stand on end. Bloodline mystic power, soul shriek. Ability 1. Let out a shriek from the main body. As long as a living being's soul isn't strong enough within the range of the divine sense, their soul will be pulled out of their body and extracted out of thin air. It's almost impossible to defend against. Ability 2. Devour the soul that has left the body and use the soul energy as one's own to increase one's strength. Without a doubt, this was a powerful soul attack type mystic power. Furthermore, it was a plundering, area of effect soul mystic power. Living beings who weren't strong enough would die if they faced this bloodline mystic power. In fact, after the golden crow of hell's soul fell into hell, it could become the ruler of hell and suppress all the demon gods in the world because of this bloodline mystic power. As long as it let out a soul shriek, those powerful demon gods with immortal bodies who were said to be unkillable would basically have their souls extracted and killed. One could imagine that those demon gods who relied on their immortal bodies would be in a constant state of fear. They no longer had the confidence to be unkillable. This ability made countless demon gods in hell tremble in fear. With this bloodline mystic power, the golden crow of hell swept through everything and devoured the souls of countless demon gods. It kept growing stronger and finally became the true ruler of hell. This ability is too powerful. Xia Ping's pupils shrank. Now that he had awakened 100 billion golden crow hell cells, he finally felt the power of the infernal demon lord's bloodline in his body. It was so powerful that it was unreasonable and went against the laws of the universe. It was no wonder that the universe's origin feared it and kept sending down divine punishment to prevent this mythical creature from reviving. He had also cultivated Zhuang's dream of butterfly and the true solution of illusion, but compared to the bloodline mystic power, soul shriek, he was still far from it. This was a forceful and irresistible bloodline mystic power. If he couldn't block it, he would die. It was a terrifying hell mystic power that was created purely for killing and destroying the world. The golden crow of hell probably wasn't some kind person back in hell. It was purely an extremely evil demon god of hell. That was why it could rule over everything and stand at the peak of all demon gods. A single shriek was enough to destroy all the races in the world, kill billions of demons, and devour countless souls. Oh no, the heavenly tribulation is about to descend. Suddenly, Xia Ping sensed that a terrifying lightning tribulation was born in the depths of the void. It was as if a huge tribulation aura was brewing. This lightning tribulation was more than 100 times more terrifying than the one he had encountered before. Most importantly, he was in the dragon realm. If he were to undergo tribulation here, how could he hide it from the many invincible dragons in the dragon realm? Once his true body appeared, he would die. To the infernal plane? Thinking about that, Xiaoping made a prompt decision to leave the dragon realm through the mountain and sea scripture's spatial channel and head to the underworld plane to undergo his tribulation. Otherwise, he would definitely cause big trouble here. An hour later, Xiaoping shuttled all the way back to the burning hell. 365 fourth fire tribulation thunder, really powerful. Xiaoping immediately sensed the aura of tribulation coming from the source. This lightning tribulation was many times more terrifying than the last time. It was simply a geometric increase. At that moment, a huge whirlpool of tribulation clouds appeared in the sky, seemingly enveloping the entire burning hell. Moreover, this tribulation cloud was crimson, brewing an extremely huge power of fourth fire. This was one of the unusual flames of the world, containing extremely terrifying destructive energy. Vaguely, there seemed to be billions of fire dragons condensed from the power of fourth fire in the depths of the tribulation clouds. They were faintly discernible, as if the world was collapsing and magma was pouring down. If this destructive energy poured down, it would definitely cause a scene of destruction. Wherever the flames went, there would be a sea of fire. Not a blade of grass would grow, and all things would be destroyed. However, for the infernal golden crow bloodline, the power of fourth fire was not so terrifying. This made him feel a lot more at ease. Perhaps he could take advantage of this tribulation lightning to further strengthen the power of his bloodline. This was a tribulation, but also an opportunity. And this scene was immediately discovered by the many demons and nether ghosts in the burning hell. What's going on? Why did the entire burning hell suddenly dim, as if it was enveloped by tribulation clouds? Yes, it's really terrifying. It's like the wrath of the heavens. This is simply unheard of. If it descends, the entire burning hell will be destroyed. What the hell is going on? The many demons and nether ghosts felt the fourth fire tribulation lightning in the depths of the void, and all of them trembled in fear. Even though they were all-powerful demons, they could not withstand this kind of heavenly might. Moreover, the heavenly wrath was merciless. Even if they passed it, there would be no benefits. They would only be heavily injured. But if they could not pass it, only death awaited them. Don't worry. This is the Lord undergoing tribulation. This happened once before, so it's not a big deal. Some of the demons had experienced this before, so they were already very familiar with it. No way, it's the Lord undergoing tribulation? Why haven't I heard of this before? That's right, even if the Lord has the bloodline of a demon god, there's no such thing as a tribulation. Haha, what do you know? The Lord has the bloodline of an ordinary demon god. This is the blood of a demon god that the world envies. It's completely different from ordinary demon gods. How can it be compared? So that's how it is. No wonder the Lord's strength is so terrifying. It's beyond imagination. It seems that we've really profited greatly by following the Lord. Indeed, the Lord's strength might not be comparable to those peak demon gods right now, but given time, he will definitely surpass them. At that time, minor characters like us won't even have a chance to stand at the Lord's side. This is an eternal opportunity for us, the greatest fortune. We must grasp it well. The many demons and nether ghosts discussed the matter. They all worshipped Xiaoping. In particular, after they had been corroded by the golden crow of hell's bloodline, as time went on, they became more and more loyal to Xiaoping. It was difficult for them to shake off this kind of soul imprint. This was the terrifying aspect of the corrosion of a divine beast's bloodline. It could silently and unknowingly affect one's subconscious and soul. After another half a day, the enormous power of the tribulation clouds in the sky above the burning hell finally finished brewing. It poured down on Xiaoping's head, as if it wanted to destroy this monstrous genius of the universe. Come! Xiaoping stood in the air, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. He was fearless, and his body radiated an extremely powerful aura that shook space and twisted it. Chapter 2484. In the blink of an eye, 7 days and 7 nights had passed. The 365 fourth fire tribulation thunder bombarded almost all day long. The entire burning hell was covered in the fourth fire tribulation thunder, roaring and making countless devils tremble. Bolts of fourth fire tribulation lightning fell. It could destroy the world. Ordinary immortal saints would probably lose half their lives if they were hit by a bolt of fourth fire tribulation lightning. Even the fourth fire tribulation lightning was burning crazily and would never be extinguished. Even saints with immortal bodies would be burned by the fourth fire tribulation lightning all the time until their souls were destroyed. In order to avoid the fourth fire tribulation lightning, countless fourth fire tribulation lightning were hiding. Above the burning hell, countless fourth fire tribulation lightning seemed to have turned into fire dragons, covering the sky and the earth, as if to destroy the world. Everywhere was red. Even though the burning hell was full of flame power, it was not comparable to this high-level tribulation fire power, which also caused the temperature of the entire burning hell to rise sharply. Finally passed. With a boom, as the last thick fourth fire tribulation lightning fell, Xiaoping opened his mouth and swallowed the fourth fire tribulation lightning, taking all the fourth fire tribulation lightning as his own. At this moment, he finally passed the terrifying fourth fire thunder tribulation without any danger. Not bad fourth fire tribulation lightning. Xiaoping smiled slightly. He was very satisfied with this tribulation lightning. As a golden crow of hell, its resistance to flame was too strong. It was simply a natural ruler. All the flame power was for him to use. So when these fourth fire tribulation lightning fell on him, it was like food being swallowed by the golden crow of hell cells all over his body. As the fourth fire tribulation lightning fell, he also had a full meal. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he swallowed a large amount of fourth fire tribulation lightning, making his golden crow of hell bloodline stronger, awakening a total of 150 billion golden crow of hell cells. After this tribulation lightning, his body was also tempered and stronger. It seemed that more golden crow of hell runes appeared in his body's 206 bones, and the depths of the bones showed a dark gold color, as if more immortal divinity emerged. Because of this, Xiaoping felt that his understanding of the laws of the universe seemed to be easier, as if a layer of window paper had been pierced by him, and understanding the origin laws of the universe was simply a piece of cake. It was as if he had become the son of the heavenly Tao. At the same time, his magic power had grown to the peak of the near ancient realm. He was just a step away from advancing to the Middle Ages and comprehending the law of time. Vaguely, he felt as if he could perceive the existence of traces of the law of time, as if it could distort the arc of time. As long as there was an opportunity, he would be able to ascend to the Middle Ages immediately. The burning hell seems to have changed as well. Xiaoping's spiritual consciousness scanned the entire burning hell. It seemed that after experiencing the fourth fire tribulation thunder, the entire burning hell had also been tempered by the tribulation thunder, becoming several times stronger than before. Even when ancient fiends fought in the burning hell, they couldn't destroy it. Even if ancient fiends attacked with all their might, they wouldn't be able to destroy the burning hell. Furthermore, a large amount of fourth fire tribulation lightning fell on every corner of the burning hell, causing the fourth fire power to scatter everywhere, making the burning hell's source even stronger. Flame power seemed to be born everywhere. Many lucky burning devils also found an opportunity to devour a wisp of flame power and strengthen the flame power in their bodies. It could be said that for the burning hell, this was a calamity, but also a fortuitous opportunity. All of a sudden, Xiaoping's spiritual consciousness expanded to thousands of light years away. He immediately sensed that outside the burning hell, there seemed to be a large number of void monsters. These void monsters' bodies were distorted, emitting a chaotic, evil, and chaotic aura. There were many of them, more than 200,000, and each of them had terrifying strength. Even if a middle-level hell plane encountered 200,000 void monsters, it would suffer heavy losses. Who knew how many fiends and nether ghosts would die? They actually attracted the void monsters. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He knew that the void of hell was actually a very dangerous place. The reason why he didn't encounter void monsters in the burning hell and scorched earth hell was because the burning hell was too weak. Such a low-level hell plane was like a grain of sand in the vast hell world. It was completely inconspicuous, so naturally, it wouldn't attract the attention of the void monsters. After all, no human would constantly pay attention to the ants under their feet unless those ants gathered together in large numbers. But if they advanced to a middle-level hell plane, it would be different. It was equivalent to growing from an ant to a bird. Although it would still be very weak, it would be enough to become the void monster's food. From time to time, it would attract some scattered void monsters. In addition, Xiaoping had undergone the tribulation for 7 days and 7 nights, which caused a huge energy tide and energy waves. And how could these void monsters, who were extremely sensitive to energy, sit still? They all gathered from various corners of the hell's void and set off for the burning hell. At this moment, the burning hell was like a burning sun, emitting an unparalleled light. It was like a firefly in the darkness, attracting the attention of countless void monsters. This is also a good time to test the power of my new bloodline ability. Xiaoping's eyes flashed with a hint of killing intent. To ordinary fiends, these void monsters were undying and almost impossible to kill with conventional means. But to him, these void monsters were just fuel. As long as the undying characteristic of these void monsters was removed, it was actually not a big deal. So, in an instant, his figure flashed, traversing hundreds of light years, and immediately appeared in front of these void monsters. Roar! Seeing Xiaoping's figure appear, these void monsters were a little dumbfounded. Because they had lived for so long, they had never seen a fiend come knocking on their door. After all, when those fiends saw the void monsters, which one of them didn't flee in fear? It was already too late to escape. So how would they dare to take the initiative to appear in front of them? Wasn't that just courting death? However, these irrational void monsters, whose minds were filled with chaos and slaughter, didn't think so much. Since this food had come knocking on their door, they could just eat it directly. Why should they care so much? As for the reason why these stupid fiends came to die, it wasn't important. What was important was that they could fill their stomachs and fill that seemingly endless hunger and emptiness. The void monsters roared and pounced towards Xiaoping. Chapter 2485. Bloodline Mystical Ability, Soul Shriek. Seeing these void monsters, Xiaoping did not hesitate. He immediately activated his golden crow of hell bloodline, and an immense amount of magic power surged out. Vaguely, a huge shadow of a golden crow of hell seemed to appear behind him. It was almost tangible, like the birth of a hellish sun. It emitted an unparalleled might, suppressing the space-time of thousands of light years. It was as if at this moment, even the laws of space-time had come to a standstill. Everything in the world could not move. The golden crow of hell behind him let out a long cry. With its body as the center, it let out an earth-shattering shriek. There seemed to be circles of formless soul ripples spreading out, affecting thousands of light years. A formless, bizarre, and terrifying secret technique of the soul immediately erupted. Boom! At this instant, the 200,000 void monsters were stunned. Their hearts were usually filled with chaos, slaughter, madness, and other thoughts. But now, there was an emotion called fear in their hearts. They felt that the shadow of the golden crow of hell was like the highest predator in hell. It was the ruler that devoured all life in hell. It was the destroyer of all worlds, the symbol of doomsday. Even though they were undying and indestructible void monsters, they could not withstand this power. Bang, bang, bang. But before these void monsters could escape, circles of gray soul ripples instantly affected them. In the next second, their souls, which were hidden in the distorted, chaotic, and bizarre bodies, were instantly extracted. It seemed that no matter what kind of power it was unable to resist this mysterious power that extracted souls. What's going on? What kind of power is this? Why did it become like this? Our souls were directly extracted? What kind of demon is this guy? Why does he have such a bizarre power? Why is this happening? Waves of powerful soul ripples were communicating. These void monsters were frightened and uneasy. They could not help but scream. Without the protection of their indestructible bodies, even the most ordinary demon could easily kill and devour them if they were only left with their souls. They had been in hell for such a long time. They had never seen such a bizarre and terrifying thing. It was truly beyond their imagination. It was too unbelievable. Interesting. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. Naturally, he could also sense the communication between these soul waves. It was clear that the information given to the devils was wrong. These void monsters were not without intelligence, nor were they unable to communicate. It was just that these void monsters disdained to communicate with the demons, just like how humans would never talk to their food. They prided themselves on being a higher life form. Although their hearts were filled with chaos, slaughter, and other emotions, there seemed to be a trace of rationality and calmness in the depths of their souls, allowing them to communicate with each other. They had a high level of intelligence. However, just where did these void monsters come from, and what was their goal? Devour. Xiaoping didn't say anything. He didn't want to talk to these void monsters. Even if he asked them, they probably wouldn't answer. Since that was the case, he would just obtain information from their souls. Crash! In the blink of an eye, the golden crow of hell behind him let out another long cry. It seemed to have formed a huge dark soul vortex that covered thousands of light years. Within this range, all souls were unable to break free from this soul vortex. The void monsters let out mournful cries. They couldn't resist such a devouring force at all. All of their souls were rapidly sucked into this soul vortex. When the last soul of the void monster entered the corpse of the soul vortex, the golden crow of hell closed the soul vortex. Its mouth was chewing, letting out crunching sounds. It seemed to be crushing these souls to facilitate digestion. The souls of the void monsters were screaming and being tortured. They seemed to be suffering from intense torture and pain. Clearly, the souls of these void monsters had already been swallowed into the stomach of the golden crow of hell. Seeing this, Xiaoping finally understood what kind of existence the golden crow of hell was in hell. This was completely the most ferocious and brutal demon god of hell. It ate the souls of countless races and demon gods. It was basically a predator that stood at the peak of hell. It wasn't much different from the dark sun of the abyss world. Rumble before Xiaoping could think of anything. The souls of these void monsters that had been devoured were instantly incinerated by the furnace of hell and the solar furnace. They were refined and transformed into the purest energy. Following that, this energy rapidly surged into his limbs and bones. Bang, bang, bang. Very quickly, the golden crow of hell cells in his body also awakened rapidly. 1 billion, 2 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion. In the end, he had awakened a total of 50 billion golden crow of hell cells. In other words, at this moment, Xiaoping had awakened a total of 200 billion golden crow of hell cells. As expected of the best fuel, Xiaoping had a look of satisfaction. He felt his stomach warm and had a strong sense of satisfaction. It was as if he had eaten a sumptuous meal like the Manchu Han Imperial Feast. To be honest, these void monsters were the best fuel for his golden crow of hell bloodline. Previously, he had devoured a large amount of fourth fire tribulation lightning for a total of 7 days and 7 nights. However, he had only gained 50 billion golden crow of hell cells. But now, after killing 200,000 void monsters, he had awakened 50 billion. One could imagine how beneficial these void monsters were to the growth of his golden crow of hell bloodline. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. After devouring the souls of these void monsters, he had also obtained a portion of their memories. These void monsters were actually intelligent life forms. It was not that they did not know how to speak. It was just that the language they spoke was completely different from the language of the demons. It was the even more mysterious void language. And this language seemed to be able to communicate across space. It was soundless, like the ripples of the soul. Thus, these demons and dark ghosts could not understand it at all. They thought that these void monsters could not speak, and had no intelligence. Little did they know that every time they hunted, they would call their friends and gather people to form an army. They did indeed have indestructible bodies. Even if they were killed, their souls would be reborn somewhere, and their memories would not disappear. Thus, they were fearless. However, when he wanted to continue to understand and find out where these void monsters were reborn, all of his memories seemed to come to an abrupt end, as if a tyrannical and mysterious power of law had instantly erased all traces of them, disappearing without a trace. Interesting. A cold light flashed in Xiaoping's eyes. He could sense that this seemed to be the deepest secret of hell. Right now, he might not have the strength to truly touch upon it. Chapter 2486. 3 months later, Xiaoping's main body had been cultivating in the classic of mountains and seas, consolidating the power of his golden crow of hell bloodline that had suddenly skyrocketed. He was also quietly comprehending the laws of time, hoping to find an opportunity to break through to the ancient middle realm. However, his doppelganger hadn't stopped moving in the past 3 months. As the invisible dragon Theodore's ruins fermented, countless giant dragons from all over the dragon realm rushed over in an attempt to obtain the large amount of treasures left behind by the invisible dragon. There were also many giant dragons who entered the core cave abode, planning to participate in the trial, hoping to obtain all of Theodore's treasures. The result was as one could imagine. After these giant dragons entered the space maze, it was basically like throwing meat buns at dogs. They were all heavily injured by the traps in the space maze, unable to resist at all. Xiaoping's doppelganger took advantage of this opportunity to enter the space maze and quickly capture the heavily injured giant dragons. He used the 6 Dao seals to seal their power and capture them into the classic of mountains and seas as coolies. In just a short 3 months, he had captured a total of 2,000 giant dragons. These were not ordinary giant dragons, but at least near the ancient middle realm. If such a force were to appear in the outside world, it would definitely shock the universe. Only a place like the Dragon Realm could nurture so many sacred-level giant dragons. However, as the giant dragons failed, not a single one of them was able to pass the trial of the core cave abode. This matter also caused fear in the hearts of the other giant dragons that came later. Moreover, after the Dragon God Shrine learned of this matter, they began to stop the other ancient dragons from entering the core cave abode to participate in the trial. They could not let these ancient dragons go in and die for nothing. After all, no matter how deep the Dragon Realm's foundation was, it could not withstand such a loss. Damn it! What kind of a trial is this core cave abode of the invisible dragon? Not a single giant dragon has passed the trial. This is too difficult. A dragon complained. That's to be expected. After all, this is a trial created by a giant dragon that had once reached the invincible realm. How could it be so easy to pass? Indeed, if it was so easy to pass, wouldn't every giant dragon be able to do it? If they succeeded, they would immediately obtain all of the invisible dragon Theodore's inheritance. How shocking would that be? But from the looks of it, not only did no dragons pass, but not a single dragon came out alive. Yeah, there seems to be no news about the arrogant, colossal dragon Master Mateto after he entered. Could he have died in the trial of the core cave mansion? That's not impossible. After all, this is a trial created by the invincible dragon. Dealing with a near-ancient dragon is child's play. Fortunately, this dragon has the self-awareness to know that I can't pass this trial, so I automatically chose to give up. Otherwise, this dragon might also die in this ruins trial. That's right. As a dragon, you need to know your own limits. Otherwise, you're done for. It doesn't matter how talented you are. The dragons discussed animatedly. Many of the dragons who had entered the core cave abode were glad that they had given up on the trial after much consideration. On the surface, it seemed like they had lost a lot, and they had lost this great opportunity. But in fact, this was the right choice. After those arrogant dragons entered, none of them came out alive. Perhaps they were trapped in the space maze. It's a pity that Master Mateto actually died in the ruins. Doesn't that mean that the Enlightenment Flower, Red Blood Dragon Divine Grass, and other holy medicines are all lost in there. Isn't it? It's a pity that such a treasure is lost. I don't know how many eras such a holy medicine will only appear once. The value of a city is not enough to describe the value of this treasure. It's useless to say so much. Master Potato is trapped in the space maze. It's impossible for him to come out. I guess the holy medicine is also lost in there. Many dragons were annoyed, especially after some ancient dragons heard the news. They even beat their feet and chest. Such an opportunity to advance to the invincible realm was lost in vain. But they had no other way. But didn't Master Potato hold a martial arts training class before? It seems that he plundered a lot of dragon crystals. Now what about those dragons who paid? Some dragons suddenly remembered that Master Potato held a martial arts training class, which made the dragon realm bustle. What else can we do? Master Potato may have died in the ruins. Can we still ask him for a refund? That's true. The death of a dragon is like an extinguished lamp. There's no way to blame him. It's a pity that those dragons who just paid not long ago died before the class started. The dragons discussed animatedly, all of them sighing. At this moment, in the Dragon God Shrine, some elders of the Dragon God Shrine were also talking about the news of the appearance of the invisible dragon Theodore's ruins. Because too many dragons had died recently, they were worried and decided to intervene in this matter. I didn't expect that the ruins of the invisible dragon Theodore would appear. I thought that the ruins would disappear in the depths of the endless dimension with Theodore's death. Yes, according to historical records, Theodore was a greedy, stingy, despicable, and shameless dragon. I didn't expect him to be so generous and willing to leave all his treasures behind. This is what humans say. When a man is about to die, his words are kind, and when a bird is about to die, its cry is sad. Maybe when he was dying, Theodore found his conscience and wanted to use these treasures to benefit the younger generation of dragons. Many dragon elders were talking about it. To be honest, there were many dragons in the Dragon God Shrine who had lived from the primeval times until now, and they were very familiar with the invisible dragon Theodore's personality. In that era, the invisible dragon Theodore was a scourge, the kind that was hated by all. If he hadn't reached the invincible realm, he would have been killed by the other dragons. After all, this bastard used his space bloodline to go to the lairs of other giant dragons every day to plunder their treasures. Any dragon that received it would be lucky if they didn't kill Theodore. Moreover, it wasn't just the dragon clan that hated Theodore. Countless clans and sages in the universe had been killed by the invisible dragon Theodore. In short, there was a 90% chance that the invisible dragon Theodore was responsible for the news of a treasure being stolen somewhere in the universe. If it weren't for the invasion of the demons from the deep abyss that put the entire universe in danger, they would have banded together and killed the super thief, the invisible dragon Theodore. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to keep the treasures they had worked so hard to obtain. One could imagine that they knew that the invisible dragon Theodore was willing to leave his treasures behind to benefit the younger generation of dragons. It was like a pie falling from the sky. In that era, no one would believe that the invisible dragon Theodore would do such a thing. Fuping Chinese. Chapter 2487. Ahem. One of the elder dragons coughed. All right, Theodore has been dead for who knows how many years. Even if he was detestable when he was alive, the news of his death is still a great relief to us. However, a dragon's death is like an extinguished lamp, so there's no need to blame him. Moreover, he left behind a large number of treasures he plundered from all over the universe when he died. Does that count as a blessing to the dragons of the dragon realm? That's not necessarily a bad thing. He felt that Theodore was worthy of praise just from the fact that he left behind a legacy. Of course, if he knew that Theodore was still alive, he would probably want to strangle him to death. All right, Elder, what you said makes sense. No matter what happened to Theodore when he was alive, it's been so many years now, and there's no grudge between us anymore. One of the fire dragons nodded. But there's one thing that's very important right now, and that's that the trial in the core cave abode is too dangerous. No dragon has been able to pass it until now, and at least 1,000 ancient dragons have disappeared in the space maze. If this continues, we'll suffer heavy losses. I think we need to temporarily seal the ruins so that other dragons can't enter as they please." At the mention of this, his expression became very solemn as he stared at the many elder dragons. After all, 2,000 giant dragons had disappeared, and they were all holy dragons at that. Normally, this would have caused a huge uproar, enough to shake the entire dragon god shrine. It had been many years since the dragon realm had suffered such a loss. If it weren't for the ruins trial, they wouldn't have been able to sit still. It was fine for the trial to be difficult, but killing so many holy dragons and causing heavy losses to the dragon realm was unacceptable. The dragon realm couldn't bear such a loss. We don't need to deal with it. After all, this is a trial created by an invincible dragon. It's too difficult for a middle ancient dragon to pass, and ordinary dragons would be courting death if they enter. We can't let this continue. If we continue, then everyone who enters will die. This isn't a trial, it's suicide. We can't let this continue. Hearing this, some of the elder dragons nodded in agreement. To be honest, the fire dragon's words did strike a chord in their hearts, and they were a little worried. The reason they had a meeting here was because they were worried about the huge side effects of the ruins. Is there no way to break through the invisible dragon Theodore's relic's restrictive formation? Just snatch the treasures inside. Why do we have to go through that stupid trial? Some elders suggested violent destruction, flipping the table on the spot. It felt like there was no need to follow the rules set by the invisible dragon Theodore. With the strength of the dragon god shrine, they could easily destroy the array formation and take all the treasures for themselves. This was the style of dragons. You think we don't want to? It's not that I don't want to, but I can't. One of the elder dragons shook his head. That invisible dragon Theodore has indeed reached the pinnacle of the law of space. Some of his restrictive formations are already close to the power of divine restrictions. If a dragon who has reached the invincible realm tries to break the restriction formation inside by force, it will be instantly sent to the forbidden land of darkness or other dangerous places by the space divine prohibition inside. We can't take the risk. Of course, we can also slowly break through the restrictions and arrays of the ruins, but it will take a long time. I'm afraid it will take at least hundreds of millions of years to slowly succeed. It was very helpless. They would have done so long ago if they could break through by force. However, the invisible dragon Theodore had already thought of this and made many measures to prevent them from breaking through by force. If a dragon tried to break through by force, it might even cause the entire cave abode to explode, destroying all the treasures inside and sending them into the turbulence of time and space. The only reason they wanted to enter the ruins was to obtain the treasures. If all the treasures inside were destroyed, it would be meaningless, and they would be in a difficult position. That damned invisible dragon Theodore. He's been dead for so many years, and yet he still causes so much trouble for us. He's even guarding against us. Some of the elder dragons gritted their teeth. Forget it. It's his inheritance, and he can do whatever he wants with it. It's nothing. Besides, it's only a few 100 million years. It'll pass in the blink of an eye. Some of the elder dragons said indifferently. For immortal dragons like them, a few 100 million years was no different from a few years. All right, since we've made the decision, we'll temporarily seal Theodore's ruins and forbid other dragons from entering. We'll treat this place as a forbidden zone for the dragons. One of the elder dragons made a decision. Once we completely break through the restrictions on the ruins, all the treasures inside will belong to the dragon god shrine. As for the many sacred herbs and treasures inside, we can exchange them with the dragon god shrine's contribution points. The more contribution points we have, the more precious the treasures we get. Yes, we have no objections. The elders of the dragon god shrine nodded when they heard this. They too felt that this was the most appropriate way to avoid internal strife and fights to the death among the dragons. After all, the universe was currently in troubled times and needed to accumulate strength. The dragons couldn't afford any internal strife. Soon, the dragon god shrine sent dragons down to clear the area, clearing out all the dragons that had entered the ruins. Any dragons that wanted to enter the ruins were kept outside and were not allowed to enter. Although many of the dragons complained, none of them could resist the dragon god shrine's might. It didn't take long for Xiaoping to learn about the news. After all, it wasn't a top secret, and it had already caused an uproar on the internet. Everyone knew about it. It seems like there's no way to catch more dragons. Xiaoping felt a little regretful after hearing the news. He didn't expect the dragon god shrine to react so quickly. Now that he had made this decision, it was unlikely that he would be able to capture a bunch of dragons effortlessly, just like how he had sent them to their deaths one by one. Moreover, if the dragon god shrine sealed the ruins of the invisible dragon, the area within hundreds of millions of kilometers would become a forbidden zone. If that happened, it would be difficult for him to leave even if he continued to stay in the invisible dragon's cave abode. Once he left, he would probably be discovered by the elders of the dragon god shrine. After all, they stayed here all the time to break through the restrictions on the cave abode. It's time to leave this place. Thinking of this, Xiaoping decided to leave the ruins of the invisible dragon. In any case, he had already plundered all the treasures in this place, so there was nothing to stay here for. Swoosh! In a few breaths, before the dragon god shrine completely cleared the area, Hao Ren's figure flashed, and he instantly left the relic through the teleportation array in the relic. Chapter 2488. At this time, in a secret place in the dragon world, more than a dozen strange and eerie auras suddenly appeared. Their bodies exuded an extremely evil abyssal aura. If Xiaoping was here, he would definitely recognize that these creatures came from the abyss. Originally, their abyssal auras couldn't be concealed from the will of Dragon World, but they seemed to have some kind of artifact on them that could conceal their auras so that the will of Dragon World couldn't detect them. Kiki, the dragons are really a bunch of fools. Who would have thought that the ruins of the invisible dragon Theodore would make them kill each other to this extent? There's nothing we can do about it. This is the desire of life. No one can resist the desire for treasures. It's not just these dragons. Even us abyssal life forms are the same. You're right, but the more of these foolish dragons die, the better. Weakening the power of the dragon realm as much as possible would be the greatest benefit to our abyss. That's true, but the death of so many dragons is still too little. It's not enough to hurt the dragon realm at all. We must give the dragon realm a ruthless blow in order to make them suffer heavy losses. The group of fiendish demons snickered, a cunning glint in their eyes. By the way, we've finally found the eternal light plane hidden in the depths of the endless space-time. One of the demons said, "What? Have you finally found the mysterious eternal light plane world?" Many fiendish demons were shocked to hear that. That's right. After spending countless epochs and wasting a great deal of manpower and resources of our abyss, we finally found traces of the eternal light realm in the depths of space-time. Our Abyss King even personally took action to guide this world to the vicinity of the dragon realm. Soon, it would be discovered by those foolish dragons. A demon said, and this news will not only be known by the giant dragons, but also by the Chilants, Phoenixes, Kuan Pungs, Tautais, Pishio, Swani, and other divine beast races. A cunning and vicious look appeared on its face. It is said that the eternal light plane contains the secrets of the gods, and there are many treasures inside. This plane world actually took the initiative to give it away and let those foolish dragons obtain it. Isn't that too much of a pity? A fiendish demon regretfully said, if the eternal light realm was controlled by our abyss world, it would definitely bring great benefits to our entire abyss world. How foolish! One of the fiendish demons sneered. Haven't you learned enough from the primordial era war? Don't you understand what it means to take first? You must first give. Without giving, how can there be gains? If we sacrifice this cosmic light realm and let the dragon race, Qilin, Phoenix, Kuan Peng, Tautai, Pishio, Swani, and other races discover it, how could they miss such a good opportunity? Without a doubt, these races would definitely fight to the death for the treasures in the eternal light boundary and suffer heavy losses. Most importantly, the eternal light realm's internal environment was extremely dangerous. Even an invincible saint might perish there. If our abyssal world is lucky, we might even be able to kill the invincible sages of these races. This way, our abyssal world will have a huge advantage. It looked at the demon that had just spoken as if it was looking at an idiot. Indeed, as expected of the Abyssal King's plan, is indeed far-sighted. Just the invincible St. Theodore's ruins alone caused a dragon race to lose so many giant dragons. If a huge treasure like the Eternal Light Boundary appeared, wouldn't the casualties be more than 100 times greater? Indeed, just sacrificing a single Eternal Light realm can cause countless casualties to these divine beast clans. This is indeed a great deal. We are still too short-sighted and are unable to comprehend the great wisdom of the Abyssal Kings. That's right. Hearing this, the demons nodded. They immediately approved of this plan. Just a small trick was enough to cause these races to lose a large number of their elite combat strength. Moreover, the Abyssal world didn't need to pay anything, so why not? They could even sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight, watching these mythological beast races fight to the death and reap the benefits. Of course, we aren't planning to hand over all the treasures in the Eternal Light Boundary. The Abyssal Demon cackled. In reality, our Abyssal Kings have already sent an army to hide in the depths of space-time, lying in ambush in a space-time near the Eternal Light Boundary. If these mythological beasts enter the Eternal Light Boundary and have a chance to obtain some treasures, we can suddenly kill our way out and kill all the mythological beasts that leave the Eternal Light Boundary alive. At that time, not only will we be able to severely injure these mythological beast races, but we will also be able to obtain all the treasures in the Eternal Light Boundary and plunder all the benefits. An extremely treacherous expression appeared on its face. Brilliant. This plan is truly brilliant. As expected of the Abyssal Kings, they've taken every conceivable possibility into account. Pushing out the Eternal Light Boundary alone is enough to make these mythological beasts fight to the death, resulting in countless casualties. But this isn't important. At the crucial moment, we can ambush them and kill all the mythological beasts that leave the Eternal Light Boundary alive. Then, we Abyssal Demons will eat up all the benefits. Hearing this plan, I'm so excited that my entire body is trembling. This is simply too wonderful. I can't wait to hear the mythological beasts' anguished, despairing, and miserable screams. Presumably, after this plan is completed, the giant dragons, Chilants, Phoenixes, Kunpangs, Tautais, Pishio, Suanis, and other races will definitely suffer heavy losses. There will be countless casualties, and they will no longer be able to contend with our abyss. Many Abyssal Demons were extremely excited. They didn't expect the abyss to actually have such a grand plan, plotting all the mythological beasts together and wanting to capture them all in one fell swoop. What grand plan this was! Thinking about it, they couldn't help but tremble. This was simply an epic plan that would definitely leave a deep mark in the history of the universe. Right? I don't know when this plan will start. I can't wait anymore. A demon asked. Don't worry, the plan will start very soon. 3 days later, the Eternal Light Boundary will silently happen, and they will also think that they discovered it themselves. It definitely won't find anything fishy. As long as we wait quietly when the Dragon Realm is in chaos, and the Abyss World will launch an all-out attack, we will coordinate from the inside and outside. We will definitely be able to break through this world and kill all the stupid dragons in the Dragon Realm. An Abyssal Demon laughed cruelly. If that's the case, then that's great. I've long wanted to leave this damn Dragon Realm. There are clearly so many beautiful souls here, but I can't devour them. This feeling is too unbearable. Hee, I can't wait to start a massacre in the Dragon Realm. Many Abyssal Demons were filled with killing intent. Intense demonic chi gushed out of their bodies, almost corroding this space-time into a black world, emitting a strong corrosive power. Chapter 2489. Several days later. As expected, an ancient dragon traveling through time and space, as well as the Phoenixes, Chilants, Pixius, and other sages, discovered the cosmic light realm that had appeared out of thin air at the same time. They immediately cried out in surprise. Because of this, they fought each other, each wanting to monopolize this exclusive information. But even after fighting for a long time, they were unable to determine a victor. In the end, they could only give up on the idea of silencing their enemies and quickly return to their lairs to pass on the news. Within a few breaths, the news of the cosmic light realm's appearance reached the dragon god temple and quickly spread throughout the entire dragon realm. The other divine beast clans also learned of this matter. For a time, the dragons were in an uproar, and Xiaoping had undoubtedly received this shocking news as well. Cosmic light realm? What is that? Xiaoping, however, looked puzzled. He had no idea what this meant. He looked at Yi Mengyao. I'm not too sure either. Yi Mengyao shook her head, indicating that she didn't know either. Perhaps this thing is very famous in the dragon realm. Why don't we ask the invisible dragon Theodore? Perhaps he knows something. You're right. Xiaoping nodded. With a thought, he immediately grabbed the invisible dragon Theodore, who was imprisoned in the classic of mountains and seas. What did you say? The cosmic light realm has appeared. The invisible dragon Theodore's eyes widened in disbelief upon hearing this news. That's right. This news has already spread like wildfire. There aren't many dragons in the dragon realm who don't know about it. But what kind of place is the cosmic light realm? Why are so many sacred dragons so excited? Xiaoping said. Of course they're excited. The cosmic light realm is a unique world formed after the fall of a god. The invisible dragon Theodore cried out. What? When Xiaoping and Yi Mengyao heard this news, they were both shocked. What kind of thing was involved with the gods? It was definitely something that was beyond their imagination. Impossible. Didn't they say that there are no gods in this universe? You're not bragging, are you? Yi Mengyao looked at Theodore suspiciously. Ha, ignorant fool. What do you know? The invisible dragon Theodore said disdainfully. It's just that there are no gods in this era. But in the previous era, it was a world where gods lived. What do you mean? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He had a feeling that he could hear the deepest secrets of a universe from Theodore, a secret that only the invincible saints would know. The others didn't have the qualifications to know, and they wouldn't be told. You should know that even the universe has a lifespan. Nothing is eternal. The formless dragon Theodore said faintly. Of course, the lifespan of the universe is very, very long. From birth, growth, maturity, decline, and destruction, it could span countless eras. It is so long that even the gods would forget about it. But no matter what, the universe would still decline one day, and that day would be the twilight of the gods. All living beings in the universe would die because of the destruction of a universe. Then, after the universe is destroyed, a new universe will be born, and the next era of the universe will be formed. Countless lives in the universe will be born, and this cycle will continue. Is there such a thing? Could it be that when the universe perishes, no life will be able to survive? Xiaoping and Yi Mengyao narrowed their eyes as they stared at the invisible dragon Theodore, feeling a great impact. That's a good question. The invisible dragon Theodore chuckled. Actually, the destruction of the universe doesn't necessarily mean that other life forms will perish. In fact, we dragons, phoenixes, cheilants, black tortoises, and other races are all powerful races that have survived since the last era of the universe. The last era of the universe. Yi Mengyao felt as if she had heard a great secret about the dragon race and other divine beasts. Stop bragging. If you were really strong enough to survive the apocalypse, the universe would have long been dominated by the dragon race. Would there even be a place for the other peak races to appear? Xiaoping felt that the invisible dragon Theodore was talking nonsense. Brat, what do you know? The invisible dragon Theodore said disdainfully. Do you think there's no price to pay to survive the apocalypse? The god of our dragon race, the ancestral dragon, paid a great price. He turned his body into a huge dragon realm and formed a powerful universal law that belonged to his realm, forcibly resisting the power of the apocalypse. But it was also because of this that the ancestral dragon fell. The gods of the other races, cheilants, phoenixes, black tortoises, tautais, and other races also did the same. That's why they were able to survive since the last era of the universe. But it's also because we are creatures of the last era of the universe that the power in our bodies and the power of the laws we comprehend are incompatible with the universal laws of this era. If we appear in the universe, we will be targeted by the universal laws at all times. Every time we make a breakthrough, we will suffer the wrath of heaven, and even misfortune will befall us. We will encounter enemies everywhere. Therefore, it's not that we don't want to leave the dragon realm and go to other places to occupy star fields. In fact, we can't leave the dragon realm at all. He was very helpless. However, he also said that it was not a problem to leave the dragon realm for a short period of time. But when he made a breakthrough, he must return to the dragon realm. Otherwise, he would be contaminated by the aura of the universal laws of this universe, and he would suffer the wrath of heaven until he was struck to death. The stronger one was, the more powerful the wrath of heaven would be. Every dragon dared not leave the dragon realm when they were close to breaking through. They could only obediently stay in the dragon realm. Moreover, when a universe began to be born, the universal laws of the last era of the universe greatly restricted these creatures and did not allow them to easily appear in the universe. Only when the universe's creatures of this era gradually grew up and a large number of life forms could keep pace with the dragon race and other races, could the dragon race and other races appear in other universes. If it was in the primordial era, as long as the dragons left the dragon realm, they would be struck by lightning. But now, with the passage of time, the universe of this era seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. The various universal laws of the universe were firm and indestructible, so the restrictions on the dragons had weakened a lot. It was like a superpower that had grown up and had enough power. It would not care about those weak countries, so it was more tolerant of other forces. After all, the dragon race and other races of the last era of the universe seemed to be very powerful, but they could not occupy much of an advantage against the other peak races of the universe. At most, they were on par. Xia Ping had a strange expression. Why was this feeling so similar to when he made a breakthrough? He would also be struck by lightning every time he made a breakthrough. Could it be the same for these dragons? Chapter 2490. In other words, the eternal light realm is a paradise left behind by the gods of the previous universe era. Yi Mingyao narrowed her eyes. That's right. Invisible Dragon Theodore nodded. In fact, the eternal light realm appeared once in the primordial era. At that time, the myriad races of the universe entered and plundered many treasures from within. Some people even collected some divine blood from within, which allowed their cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. Some even advanced to the invincible realm, allowing them to roam the universe unhindered. What? Yi Mingyao was shocked. The eternal light realm had appeared once, and countless people had entered it to obtain a large number of treasures and benefits. However, the eternal light realm only appeared once before quickly closing, once again hiding in the depths of space-time. I didn't expect it to appear again after so many years. Invisible Dragon Theodore sighed. Now that this paradise left behind by the gods is bound to cause disputes among countless races. It might even lead to war. After all, the eternal light realm might contain the secret to becoming a god. The secret to becoming a god. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes as he looked at Invisible Dragon Theodore. If that was the case, then the secret contained in the eternal light realm was truly incredible. It would definitely cause a sensation throughout the world. Brat, do you know the truth behind the war between the Abyss world and the myriad races of the universe in the primordial era? Invisible Dragon Theodore cackled. The truth is very simple. Those Abyss kings wanted to become the first god of this universe era. Whoever becomes the first god will be able to dominate everything in this era and open the era of the gods. Unfortunately, becoming a god is extremely difficult, especially to become the first god of this universe era. The difficulty is no less than a mortal without any talent becoming an immortal sage. So even after countless years, no life has been able to become a god. Even so, there are still countless invincible sages laying out plans, eyeing covetously like tigers watching their prey, waiting for the opportunity to become a god. Hearing this, Xiaoping suddenly recalled the ruins he had entered before. It seemed to have been left behind by the human race's sage of fortune. The other party had tampered with the ruined treasures countless times to disguise his own death. It was likely that he had spent countless years laying out an earth-shattering trap. The reason for such a plan was probably to become the first god of this universe era. He didn't know why the position of the first god was so important, but the countless beings in the universe would be willing to pay any price in order to fight for the position of the first god. Whichever race produced the first deity would be the absolute overlord of this era of the universe. Since the previous era of the universe was the era of the gods, then the eternal light realm wasn't the only god who could withstand the great shattering of the universe, right? Could it be that there aren't any abodes left behind by other gods? Xiaoping asked. That's a good question. The conclusion is that there are, and quite a few of them. Theodore cackled. I'm sure you've heard of the Forbidden Darkness region before, but you don't know why it's so dangerous. Even invincible saints have fallen there. The reason was very simple. The Forbidden Dark Zone was an absolute forbidden area formed after the fall of the gods. Many invincible saints called the Forbidden Dark Zone the graveyard of the gods. That place truly contained the ultimate secrets of the gods. There were countless god caves left behind, and a large number of secrets about the previous era of the universe were hidden there. But it was also because of this that the graveyard of the gods was too dangerous. Even if invincible saints entered that place, they would die if they weren't careful. There was nowhere to run. So, I believe you know why the cosmic dimension is so maddening. After all, it's a lone abode of a god, and the danger it contains is much less than a forbidden area of darkness. So, it naturally became a treasure trove that countless races fight madly for. The graveyard of the gods. Xiaoping and Yi Mingyao looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Such information was probably top secret even among the upper echelons of the human race. They probably didn't have the qualifications to know such information unless they reached the level of primordial saints. After all, the Forbidden Dark Zone was too dangerous, and anyone who didn't reach the level of primordial saints would die if they entered. Why would the Forbidden Dark Zone become the graveyard of the gods? Were they all good friends who liked to die together? Yi Mingyao asked. I'm not sure. This is an eternal mystery. Even our dragon god, Shrine, doesn't know much about it. Invisible Dragon Theodore shook his head. But someone once made a shocking guess that they did it for a purpose. They were willing to sleep in this graveyard in order to withstand the power of the great destruction of the universe, waiting for the opportunity to be resurrected. He revealed another earth-shattering secret. Resurrection? Those gods can still be resurrected? Hearing this, Yi Mingyao was shocked. It's already difficult to kill someone at the level of a saint. What if they reach the level of a god? This is a powerful life that far exceeds our imagination. It's not hard to imagine that an existence of such a level can be resurrected. Invisible Dragon Theodore laughed. Even many dragons in our dragon god shrine think that the ancestral dragon may not be dead and is only in a deep sleep now. One day, he will be resurrected in this universe. Yi Mingyao was impressed. Although Invisible Dragon Theodore was a coward, he was still a saint who had reached the invincible realm. He knew a lot of information. For ordinary people, this was top secret information. But for Theodore, it was nothing. It was completely common sense, and he casually said it. Theodore's life experience alone was a great wealth. What two fools! At this moment, the formless dragon Theodore was secretly laughing in his heart. He had deliberately leaked this information to tempt that damned bastard Xiaoping. How could he not be tempted after knowing the secrets of the gods? When the time came, this abominable brat would inevitably enter the eternal light realm, and perhaps even enter dangerous places like the Forbidden Dark Zone to find the secret and path to become a god. He would probably soon hear that this kid had fallen in a place like the Forbidden Dark Zone. Then he would be able to quickly escape the evil hands of this evil brat. Of course, he wasn't worried that this kid might gain a huge harvest. After all, it was the graveyard of the gods, and the danger it contained was not something a mere saint could imagine. Over the years, Countless saints had come one after another to search for the secrets within, but so far, not many saints have been able to find a reason. He didn't believe that this little brat was an exception. Therefore, with just a little trick, he could trap this shameless and despicable bastard to death. Why wouldn't he be happy? In fact, as long as this kid asked, it would tell him everything without hiding anything. The more secrets these gods knew, the faster they would die. The secrets of the gods were not something that mortals could covet. Third Sect Leader. Chapter 2491. So that's how it is. Thank you for your answer. You can go back now. After hearing this, Xiaoping wanted to seal Theodore and throw him into the world of the classic of mountains and seas again. What? The formless dragon Theodore was so angry that his face turned green. He was simply a tool of this shameless human, using him when he needed him and throwing him away when he didn't. How despicable. But before he could say anything, he was thrown into the world of the classic of mountains and seas in the next second. Do you think what Theodore said is true? Xiaoping looked at Yimeng Yao. I think it's true. He has no reason to lie to us. Plus, I did hear some similar rumors from my family, but I didn't go into detail. Yimeng Yao said in a low voice. If that's the case, it seems that I really have to go to the Eternal Light Realm. I can't let go of such a treasure land. Xiaoping rubbed his chin. He felt that since this place held the secret to becoming a god, he didn't want to miss it. After all, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Whoever missed it would be a fool. But this news isn't limited to the dragons. It seems that the saints of the Qilin, Phoenix, and other divine beast races also know about it. Even the invincible saints might go in. It's very dangerous. Yimeng Yao's expression was solemn. She felt that the Eternal Light Realm wasn't like Theodore's ruins. This place didn't limit the strength of other dragons, so anyone could go in. Even if Xiaoping could deal with ancient Middle Realm dragons now, he wouldn't be a match for ancient dragons or even primordial dragons at all. He would be crushed in an instant. That's not a big problem. Xiaoping rubbed his chin. As long as I transform into a dragon, I believe they won't easily harm dragons of the same race. Plus, I have many clones, so I could send them to explore dangerous places. Even if I encounter any danger, I won't have to worry about my life. My ability to stay alive is top-notch. He felt that the Eternal Light Realm was indeed dangerous. Countless saints would go in, but his ability to stay alive was not bad. If he did encounter any danger, he would be able to escape in time. If that's the case, then you can go in. But you must be careful. Yimeng Yao nodded, but she was still a little worried about Xiaoping's safety. No matter what, this was the Eternal Light Realm, a cave left behind by a god. The danger it contained was beyond imagination. Don't worry, I'll be careful. Xiaoping patted his chest. One day later, Xiaoping transformed into another ancient dragon and traveled through the void toward the Dragon God Shrine. Since the Dragon God Shrine controlled the teleportation array formation to the Eternal Light Realm, they could instantly reach the vicinity of the Eternal Light Realm. Soon, he arrived at the famous Dragon God Shrine in the Dragon Realm. A gigantic and majestic palace appeared before Xiaoping. The buildings towered into the clouds and stretched endlessly, like a huge dragon that spanned across the land, exuding an unparalleled aura. There were powerful restrictive formations all around, and this place could be said to be the safest place in the dragon world. There were forbidden areas everywhere, and countless holy dragons lived here. It could be said that this place was the center of the dragon world, and it controlled the fate of the entire dragon world. Vaguely, there seemed to be thick chains of order in the depths of the void, outlining the void. Even if an invincible saint was in this place, he would be completely sealed by the divine restriction here, unable to move. No giant dragon could cause trouble in the Dragon God Shrine. Xiaoping could sense that there was a terrifying power brewing in the depths of the Dragon God Shrine. This power could even kill an invincible saint, and it was the true foundation of the dragon world. And such a foundation had never been used even in the primeval era, when there was a war with the abyssal races. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, many holy dragons came from all over the dragon world. They had also heard about the appearance of the Eternal Light Realm, and they had all arrived at a square in the outer hall of the Dragon God Shrine. Basically, all the giant dragons that wanted to enter the Eternal Light Realm had to gather here. There are so many giant dragons. Xiaoping looked at the giant dragons flying in from all directions, and he immediately sighed. There were too many giant dragons that had reached the sacred level. He could see hundreds of thousands of immortal dragons with his naked eyes alone. This number was much more than the human race's immortal saints. He had captured 2,000 holy dragons, but it was child's play to the entire dragon clan, far from a serious injury. It could only be said that the dragon clan was indeed a powerful race that had survived since the era of the previous universe. They had lived for countless years, and the number of immortal dragons they produced was simply far greater than the other peak races of this universe. However, the true high-end combat power of the race was still the invincible saints. An invincible saint could fight a group of immortal saints, and at this level, quantity was not the most important. Therefore, to determine whether a race was strong, it still depended on how many invincible saints they had. It was just like in the nuclear era of his previous life. When it came to war, it did not depend on how many conventional weapons one had, but how many nuclear bombs one had stored. Of course, everyone had nuclear weapons, and when they were evenly matched, it naturally depended on the conventional weapons. From this point, it could be seen that the Dragon Clan was indeed one of the strongest among the peak races, and it was not something the human race could compare to at the moment. The current human race could at most maintain a balanced situation in front of the Dragon Clan. Whoosh! Without waiting for Xiaoping to think further, he landed on the square. Hey, brother, you look unfamiliar. Are you a dragon that just ascended to the near ancient realm? At this time, a near ancient realm fire dragon saw Xiaoping and immediately greeted him enthusiastically. That's right. I indeed just ascended not long ago. Xiaoping nodded. So that's how it is. I'm Tenchi, what's your name? Tenchi asked curiously. My name is Wu Wudi. Xiaoping said. Wu Wudi? Why does this name sound so familiar? Yeah, I seem to have heard of it somewhere. There seems to be a very arrogant dragon called Master Matedo. It's very similar to this name. Could it be that Master Matedo is related to you? Suddenly, many dragons turn around. During this period of time, they had heard of the name Master Matedo. He was clearly a near ancient dragon, but he was extremely ferocious and could even kill a middle ancient dragon. That's right, that's my big brother, but I haven't seen him for a long time. Xiaoping said casually. So that's how it is. No wonder the name is so similar, so you're a family. My condolences, your big brother is trapped in the ruins of the invisible dragon Theodore, and he still hasn't come out. Tenchi looked at Xiaoping with a pitiful expression. It's okay. Good dragons don't live long. Bad dragons live for hundreds of millions of years. That bad embryo won't die so easily. Of course, if he dies, it can also benefit the public. Xiaoping waved his hand. The surrounding dragons had strange expressions. It seemed that the relationship between these two brothers was not very good. Third Sect Master. Chapter 2492. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As time passed, more and more holy dragons appeared on the square of the Dragon God Shrine. There are even ancient dragons, primordial dragons, and primordial dragons. Normally, these dragons would sleep in their lairs and would not easily come out. But now that the news from the Eternal Light Realm had completely alarmed these saint dragons, they did not even bother to sleep and woke up one after another. The primordial dragons stood at the center of the square, emanating an unparalleled aura. Even though they didn't emit any power, they still had an overwhelming presence. One could feel the vicissitudes of time flowing from them, as if they'd lived since the beginning of the universe. Their power was simply unfathomable. There were at least 1,000 primordial dragons like them. Near primordial dragons like Xiaoping were just small shrimps in the square. They could only stand at the edge of the square and didn't have the right to enter the center. The Dragon Clan is truly powerful. Xiaoping sighed at the appearance of these dragons. As expected of a race that had survived since the era of the previous universe. Just these holy dragons alone were enough to rival the peak races. Moreover, They still had all sorts of trump cards that they hadn't used yet. Their strength was frighteningly deep. Boom! At that moment, a huge platform suddenly appeared on the square. Then, elderly men in luxurious robes with dragon horns on their heads in human form appeared. Each of them emitted a powerful aura, and even the primordial dragon standing at the front couldn't help but lower its head to show respect. Without a doubt, these elders were the true masters of the dragon god shrine, giant dragons who had reached the invincible realm. There were 28 such dragons all at once, and they were distributed around the platform. Xiaoping was speechless when he saw this. There were only 9 invincible realm saints in the human clan, but there were 28 invincible realm dragons in the dragon clan. In terms of high-end combat power, the dragon race had an overwhelming advantage, and the human race couldn't compare for now. However, because the dragon race wasn't a creature of this era, they were restricted by the laws of the universe. So if these dragons left the dragon realm and appeared in the outside world, their strength would be greatly suppressed. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't casually leave the dragon realm. Instead, they would stay in the dragon realm to protect it. According to Theodore, the formless dragon, the laws of the universe would only remove the suppression on the invincible dragons after the first god appeared in this universe. But for now, they still couldn't easily appear in the outside world. Fortunately, the laws of the universe imposed many restrictions on these races. Otherwise, the human race, demon race, elemental race, insect race, and other peak races would not have been able to grow. Everyone, at this moment, a bald old man wearing a red singlet, sunglasses, holding a black cane, and flip-flops casually walked out. His face was kind and gentle, like a spring breeze. He was Samuel, the shrine master of the dragon god shrine. His strength had reached the invincible realm, and he was also the strongest person in the entire dragon realm. It looked ordinary, but when it transformed into human form, it looked like a wretched old man who still had evil intentions, even though he was old. However, none of the giant dragons present dared to underestimate the shrine master of the dragon god shrine. He was the most powerful dragon that had lived since the era of the previous universe. His lifespan was longer than all the dragons present. He had witnessed the destruction and birth of the universe, and he had also served the ancestral dragon. He might even have fought against the gods during the era of the gods. Even during the Abyss War of the Primordial Era, the flames of war swept across the universe, and he was ambushed by dozens of Abyss Kings, but he still couldn't be killed. He was also known as the giant dragon with the highest chance of becoming the first dragon god in this era of the dragon race. It was also considered by all the races in the universe to be the closest to the gods. Every giant dragon living in the dragon realm had heard of the legend of the shrine master of the dragon god shrine, Samuel. It could be said that most of the giant dragons grew up listening to Samuel's story. Back when the dragon scientist Titania was rampaging through the universe and committing all kinds of evil, it was Samuel, the shrine master of the dragon god shrine, who personally joined forces with the other invincible sages to shatter the immemorial heavenly dragon talisman. Titania was chased all over the universe and almost died. This was a living legend. The eternal light realm has appeared. This is a world formed after the fall of the gods. There's a big secret inside, and it might hide the opportunity to become a god. However, it is also very dangerous, and every step is filled with danger. Even the invincible dragons might not be able to survive inside. Samuel, the shrine master of the dragon god shrine, said, "Therefore, dragons below the immortal dragon level shouldn't enter. You have to be at least near the immortal dragon level and understand the law of space to survive in the eternal light realm." What? Hearing this, many of the immortal dragons wailed. They couldn't even enter such an important relic of the gods. However, this was the decision of the dragon god shrine, and it was also the order of the shrine master of the dragon god shrine, Samuel. They had to obey. Anyone who dared to disobey the order would be immediately thrown into prison and imprisoned until the end of time. If it was serious, they might even be executed. Some of the immortal dragons and above nodded. They felt that this was a matter of course. It was the eternal light realm, a cave abode left behind by the gods. It was full of danger. Although there were many treasures and opportunities, the danger was also extremely fatal. Even the immortal dragons felt that it was extremely dangerous. If the immortal dragons went in, it would be suicide. How could they obtain opportunities? They naturally wouldn't allow such suicidal behavior. Otherwise, the new generation of the dragon world would be finished. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Soon, these immortal dragons left the square of the dragon god shrine. They had no hope of entering the eternal light realm. All of a sudden, the entire square seemed to have lost half of the dragons. In fact, even among the dragon clan, the higher the cultivation of the immortal dragons, the rarer the number. Well, that's the general rules. Samuel, the shrine master of the dragon god shrine, said, "After entering the eternal light realm, remember to be careful. You can form small teams or fight alone. It's fine as long as you have the confidence to survive. Moreover, this time, it isn't just our dragon clan that is entering the eternal light realm. There are also brats from other clans. You have to be careful and don't fail miserably." After saying this, he gently poked the ground with his walking stick. Suddenly, a huge super-spatial teleportation array appeared on the square of the dragon god shrine. Boom! In the blink of an eye, all the immortal dragons present, including Xia Ping, felt the void distort. Time and space changed, and all the immortal dragons on the square were teleported to another void. /book_65922/L. Chapter 2493. Boom! In the next second, most of the holy dragons in the dragon realm were transported to a place in the void. There was no end in sight, as if they were in a void of space-time. They had no idea where this place was. A huge sphere appeared in front of them. It was like a sun, and all the dragons felt extremely small in front of this sphere. However, this sphere was not a sun, and it could not emit eternal heat. It was a super world, and it shone with gentle light. It was as if this world was the only source of light in the void, illuminating the dark, starry sky. This world lay in the depths of the void, and there seemed to be countless laws of space-time operating deep inside. Thick chains of the Great Path wrapped around this world, as if it was engraved with dense divine prohibition matrices and runes. All the dragons could feel that this world contained an unfathomable aura. It was as if there was a power above the laws of the universe. It was incompatible with the laws of the universe of this era. Moreover, the surrounding power of the laws of the universe seemed to be faintly rejecting this world. If it was not for the fact that this world was too sturdy, it would have long been crushed to pieces by the vast power of the universe's origin. Impressive. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. In fact, he could see more than the others. This was not just a simple world. It was basically a miniature version of the universe, and there seemed to be many huge stars born deep inside. These stars automatically operated in the depths of the universe according to a unique pattern. Countless stars combined together to form a supermatrix, and when it came crashing down, it had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. He felt that this sphere was probably more terrifying than he had imagined. Eternal Light Realm. This should be the Eternal Light Realm. Some dragons could not help but exclaim. As expected of a world formed after the fall of the gods, this can be considered a divine kingdom. The laws of the universe operating inside are really unbelievably powerful. I really don't know how terrifying the gods were at their peak. Some primordial dragons looked at the Eternal Light Realm with infatuation. They could feel that the laws of the universe operating in this world were extremely mysterious. They were like precise parts of a machine, and not a single one could be missing. They formed a perfect cycle. This place is indeed very dangerous. Although we haven't entered yet, just seeing the situation in the periphery is enough to prove that this world is not ordinary. Some of the primordial dragons had solemn expressions on their faces. They were extremely confident in their own strength and believed that they absolutely had the ability to return from the Eternal Light Realm alive. However, after seeing the Eternal Light Realm, they could not help but become cautious. There was no doubt that this was a divine world that exceeded all of their imaginations. Damn it, the other races are here too. The expressions of some of the archaic dragons changed. They sensed the rapid changes in the surrounding space. Time and space began to distort. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, a huge teleportation formation appeared in the void in the distance. Obviously, even though the dragons were extremely fast, the other races weren't slow either. They were only a few minutes behind the dragons and had also arrived at this place. It was as if as soon as their front foot arrived, these races' rear foot also followed. Crash! Immediately, groups of powerful figures emerged from these teleportation formations. With a flash of light, these figures revealed their original appearances. Giant divine birds stood in the air, their bodies burning with scorching flames. They were like walking suns, and every feather was condensed from flames. Mysterious runes appeared on the feathers, which seemed to contain the power of the laws of the universe. If any of these feathers fell, they would be able to incinerate an entire area. These divine birds were unquestionably phoenixes, mighty beings that could control fire. Their bodies emanated traces of holy aura that were unfathomable. Deep within their bodies flowed an aura of eternity, as if even after death, they could be reborn from the depths of the flames. The Chelan race is here, too. The dragons saw that standing next to the phoenixes was a group of powerful Chelans. From their external appearance, they had the head of a lion, the antlers of a deer, the eyes of a tiger, the body of an elk, the scales of a dragon, and the tail of an ox. Their tails were furry like a dragon's tail, with a fleshy corner. The bodies of these Chelans were a bit like musk deer. Chelans had long lives. Even the most ordinary Chelan could live for 2 million years. They could breathe fire, and their voices were like thunder. Their power was in no way inferior to that of the dragons. It's not just the Chelan race. The Kuei race is here too. There was another flash of light, and the dragons discovered that another tyrannical race had been teleported to this place. Powerful Kuei appeared in this place. They were shaped like oxen, and their entire bodies were gray. They had no horns and only one leg. Every time they appeared, there would be a violent storm. Their bodies shone with light like sunlight and moonlight, and their roars were as ear-splitting as thunder. In the past, humans had obtained some Kuei corpses and used their skin to make drums. They also used the bones of thunder beasts as drumsticks. When they beat the drums, the sound of the drums could be heard hundreds of millions of miles away, intimidating enemy soldiers and commanding the world. The Kuei race was also a tyrannical race that had mastered the laws of thunder to the extreme. It was said that the god of the Kuei race was the god of thunder, who controlled the power of thunder in the world. Wherever he went, thunder rumbled, and he was invincible. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In addition to these races, the other powerful divine beast races that had received the news also quickly sent their saints to this place. Clearly, they were also very eager for the treasures of the eternal light realm. If anyone could obtain it, it would be of great benefit to the various races. They were even like the dragon race, a tyrannical race that had survived from the era of the previous universe to this day. They were also life forms that rarely appeared in the universe. So many divine beast races. Yi Mengyao also used the power of the classic of mountains and seas to sense the situation in the outside world at all times. It could be said that she had broadened her horizons. The divine beast race that would never appear in the universe on ordinary days actually appeared at this moment. If these divine beasts appeared in the universe, it would definitely alarm many peak races. This power was also enough to easily reverse the situation of the entire universe. There are indeed many divine beasts. It would be great if I could capture them and imprison them in the classic of mountains and seas. When Xiaoping saw these divine beasts appear, his eyes lit up. He was overwhelmed with emotions and even started drooling. To be honest, his current classic of mountains and seas was still a bit unworthy of its name. Although he had captured many giant dragons to breed in, the species was still too single. Compared to the real classic of mountains and seas, the number and species of creatures were too few. If he could also capture some of these divine beasts, it would definitely be excellent. This, Yi Mingyao was speechless. She also sensed Xia Ping's thoughts and didn't know what to say. Ordinary people would be somewhat afraid of divine beasts when they encountered them, but this kid was thinking about how to capture them as pets. What did he think of divine beasts? Chapter 2494. At this time, the other races also discovered that the dragon race had also arrived in the vicinity of the Eternal Light Realm. Their expressions all changed. Damn it, why are these four-legged worms so fast? It's only been such a long time, but they've already turned out in full force. It's as if they've never obtained any treasures in their lives. He, who doesn't know that these four-legged worms have no abilities at all. They run when they encounter danger, but when it comes to snatching treasures, they guarantee to be the first to attack. This is all famous in the universe. Not only that, but they're also extremely stingy. Every single one of them is a miser. After obtaining treasures, they'll just put them in their lairs and do nothing but watch. The most despicable thing is that these bastards still go around showing off, as if they're afraid that others don't know that they're rich. They act like upstarts, and they can't change this personality no matter how many years have passed. In short, if the dragon race appears here, it's definitely not a good thing. Many of the divine beasts gritted their teeth. They didn't have a good impression of the dragon race. Although they were all creatures that had survived from the previous era of the universe, their relationship wasn't good. If there was a chance, they would all want to make the other party suffer a huge loss. In fact, before the previous era of the universe was destroyed, they were one of the top races. In order to fight for territory, who knew how many times they had killed each other. This was especially so for the dragon race and the phoenix race. The dragon race and the phoenix race's struggle for hegemony were famous in the previous era, and such a tragic race war had lasted for who knew how many eras. There had long been a deep hatred between them. Even though countless eras had passed, and everyone had met with misfortune and could only struggle to survive in their lairs, they still couldn't reconcile. Of course, since everyone had met with misfortune, for the sake of their respective races' survival, they wouldn't necessarily fight to the death. Sometimes, they would even choose to cooperate. However, if there was a way to make the other party unlucky at a critical moment, they definitely wouldn't give up on the opportunity to hit the dragon race when they were down. And the dragon race naturally knew the other race's attitude towards their own race. Look at these fellows acting so arrogantly. It's as if the dragon race owes them a lot of money. A divine dragon could naturally see the unfriendly gazes of the other races. It seems like in the primordial era, our dragon race used the excuse of having a war with the abyssal demons to borrow many treasures from other races and made many promissory notes. We still haven't returned them. Some dragons said that the dragon tribe had indeed borrowed a lot of money, but it seemed like the dragon god shrine had found all kinds of excuses to renege on the debt. This made the other clans so angry that they wanted to exterminate the dragon tribe. So what if he owes a lot of money? He borrowed money with his ability, so why should he pay it back? Nowadays, who doesn't know that those who owe money are the bosses? Why don't you treat us better? That's right. If we get angry and don't return the money, won't they cry to death? You can't say that. You still have to pay us back. Our dragon race is a very trustworthy race. It's just that this deadline might take a little longer. It should be done by the time this era of the universe is about to end. In short, don't talk to these poor ghosts. As the saying goes, a phoenix in distress is no better than a chicken. They're no longer a race that can compete with our dragon clan for hegemony. Now, it's a situation where one is superior to many. That's right. Our dragon clan is now a super overlord. Our strength far surpasses these fellows. What a group of stingy ghosts. They only borrowed a little money and they remember it until now. Can't they forget? A group of dragons despised the phoenix, qilin, and other divine beast races. Hearing these words, Xia Ping was speechless. These dragons were thicker than the city wall. He was a little ashamed of himself. Yi Mingyao, who was hiding in the classic of mountains and seas, looked at Xia Ping with disdain. She felt that this guy was not much better than these giant dragons. At this moment, in the depths of the void, the saints of various races who had reached the invincible realm gathered together. Each of them exuded an aura of supremacy, as if the laws of the universe revolved around them. Each of them was a superlife that stood at the peak of the universe, a saint who had reached the invincible realm. If it was in the previous era of the universe, this kind of life would be called a demigod. They were powerful creatures who were half a step into the realm of gods. For this trip to the eternal light realm, we old things shouldn't go. Let the young people go and have a try. We'll just watch from the side. What do you think? The one who spoke was Samuel, the temple master of the dragon god shrine. He was holding a walking stick and wearing sunglasses. He said kindly to the other saints of the invincible realm. Although his tone seemed to be discussing, there was no doubt that even the saints who had reached the invincible realm could not ignore this old monster who had lived for countless years. Although everyone was a saint who had reached the invincible realm, in fact, there were differences in combat strength in this realm. The weak ones, like the invisible dragon Theodore, could only run away and did not have much combat strength. The powerful Samuel, the temple master of the dragon god shrine, was a super existence who could fight against many alone. A dozen saints of the invincible realm couldn't do anything to him. Since Sir Samuel has said so, then this matter is settled. Well, it's not a bad thing to let the young people go. Indeed, if we take action, the others won't have a chance. It's fair. I don't have any objections. Even Master Samuel doesn't plan to take action. It's indeed a good thing for our race. After a few words, these saints of the invincible realm all nodded and agreed with the proposal of Samuel, the temple master of the dragon god shrine. After all, if the saints of the invincible realm fought, the sky would fall and the earth would crack. There might be some unexpected danger. Of course, this was only a temporary peace. If there were any treasures in the eternal light realm that were useful to the saints of the invincible realm, even if they were shameless, they would personally snatch it without hesitation. Moreover, they actually planned to let these juniors explore the way and see if there was any special danger inside. When there was really no danger inside, it would not be too late for them to take action. These saints of the invincible realm were all old foxes. The stronger they were, the more timid they were. Because they knew a lot of things, they would avoid all kinds of taboos in the universe as much as possible. Then wait. I have to study the secret manuals. I have to cultivate all the time and strive for perfection. With a snap, Samuel, the temple master of the dragon god shrine, said carelessly. He waved his hand and seemed to take out a beach chair from the space around him. Then he lay in the void. No one knew when a magazine appeared in his hand. The corners of the other saints of the invincible realm twitched. This magazine was the famous adult dragon magazine in the dragon realm. There were many photos of beautiful dragons in it, and they were quite shameless in their clothes. They were speechless. Was reading this kind of magazine cultivation? A group of elders of the dragon god shrine blushed. They turned their faces away one after another, indicating that they didn't know the temple master of the dragon god shrine. Chapter 2495. At this moment, all the holy dragons and the sages of the other races had received orders that the invincible realm sages would not participate in this trip to the eternal light realm. The other sages were free to enter and compete for treasures. If he could obtain any treasure inside, then that treasure would belong to him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hearing this, the sages were overjoyed. If the invincible realm sages did not participate, then they would be able to obtain a lot of treasures on this trip to the eternal light realm. How could they sit still? They immediately flew toward the eternal light realm. Xiaoping did not hesitate and moved quickly. However, he was only a sage in the near ancient realm. He was at the bottom of all the sages, so he was quite inconspicuous. No sages would notice him. This is the eternal light realm. Xiaoping's figure flickered as he followed the dragons toward the eternal light realm. He immediately found that this world was so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. The world barrier was incredibly thick, at least several light years thick. Moreover, this world barrier contained dense and powerful formations. If it was at its peak, even if all the sages attacked together, they would not be able to break this world barrier. But now, the Eternal Light Realm seemed to have experienced a terrible disaster, and there were huge holes pierced through it. It was also because of these deep holes that they could enter the Eternal Light Realm. Boom! In the next second, Xiaoping passed through one of the holes and entered the Eternal Light Realm. Immediately, he found that he seemed to have appeared in another small universe. This place was vast and boundless. It should be known that his divine senses had a range of thousands of light years, which was enough to cover a small star area. But in the Eternal Light Realm, it was just the tip of the iceberg. One could imagine how huge the area of the Eternal Light Realm was. He looked over and saw huge planets in front of him, like chess pieces on a chessboard, arranged in a very orderly manner in this cosmic void. It seemed that these planets were the living space of the Eternal Light Realm. I've finally entered the Eternal Light Realm. It's really huge. It is said that in the previous universe, this world was called the Divine Kingdom. It is the kingdom of the gods. Only those who are close to the gods or believers can enter. Are all divine kingdoms so huge? No, that's not necessarily the case. Some divine kingdoms are very small, perhaps only a few thousand light years in size. But this eternal light plane is inconceivably huge. Although it's smaller than the dragon plane, it's still quite incredible. You can imagine that even in the age of gods, a god who possessed the eternal light realm was a rather powerful god. But what exactly is going on with these planets? Those planets are basically life-bearing planets created by the gods, specifically for countless believers to live on. Every planet is a suitable place to live. But according to the requirements of the gods, some planets are commercial planets that are only responsible for trading. Some are agricultural planets that are responsible for planting large amounts of elixirs, spiritual fields, and so on. Some are forging planets that seem to specialize in forging all kinds of powerful magical treasures and weapons. And some planets contain the true secrets of the gods, which can be considered the top secrets of the divine kingdom. I've heard of this before. It seems that there is a supreme planet in the eternal light realm that is the palace of the gods. Normally, the gods live there. If you can find it, you'll be able to find countless treasures and even the secret to becoming a god. It's not that simple. In the ancient times, many saints entered the eternal light realm to search, but after searching for a long time, they still couldn't find this origin star. Some saints thought that after the gods fell, this origin star was destroyed and disappeared, so they couldn't find it. Not necessarily. Didn't some saints say that this planet may be hidden in the depths of the space-time of the eternal light realm, hidden by a tyrannical restrictive formation, so it can't be found? Maybe we can find it this time. I hope so. In short, even if we can't find this origin star, we can still find other treasures. That's right. We don't need the secret to becoming a god, just a little treasure. The magic treasures leaked from the fingertips of the gods are enough to fill our stomachs. The giant dragons discussed among themselves. Because everyone was a member of the dragon clan, they didn't hide the information they knew and directly told the others about it, so that the other dragons would have a certain degree of understanding of the cosmic realm. Interesting. Xiaoping touched his chin. According to these dragons, the most precious treasures in this place were naturally hidden on the origin star, but other planets might also hide a lot of treasures. However, he sensed around and found that many planets have been severely damaged, completely turned into dead stars. Planets that really hid treasures were still extremely rare. But the Eternal Light Realm was really too big. Wanting to find treasures in such a boundless place was undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. At this moment, other dragons and other living beings of other races scattered in all directions. They planned to carry out a carpet search and see who was lucky enough to find treasures. But Xiaoping didn't want to rely on luck to find treasures, which was really too stupid. Betty. At this time, Xiaoping moved his mind and immediately grabbed the Dragon of Destiny Betty from the world of the classic of mountains and seas. He wanted to use Betty's power to find treasures in this place. What are you doing, adult dragon? Don't you know I'm eating? At this moment, Betty looked at Xiaoping angrily. Her mouth was stuffed with a pile of delicious food, and she was eating with relish. She didn't expect to be caught by this detestable adult dragon. To be honest, she was a little too happy in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. This place had endless delicious food, like-minded companions, and endless scenery. She didn't even need to worry about her own safety. She was carefree. Eat, eat, eat. All you know is to eat. What if you become a fat dragon in the future? Hurry up and help me find treasures in this place. Xiaoping reached out and knocked her on the head. Damn it! Betty glared at Xiaoping angrily. She wanted to eat this bastard adult dragon like a meat bun. But the moment she appeared in this place, she found that the power of destiny in her body was increasing crazily. It was as if this was an incredible place. The power in her body was also increasing rapidly because of the increase in the power of destiny. On that planet has the treasure you need the most right now. Suddenly, her eyes seemed to turn into the swastika symbol. It was as if she could see the other side of the river of destiny and countless scenes and fragments of the future. She instinctively told him what she knew. That planet. Looking in the direction that Betty was pointing, Xiaoping's heart stirred. He immediately sensed that a small planet hidden nearby seemed to be emitting waves of space-time fluctuations. Chapter 2497. Adult Dragon, you have to be careful. At this time, Fate Dragon Betty's expression was very solemn. I can sense that this world seems to be shrouded in darkness. Almost every dragon is surrounded by an aura of death. It seems that a great disaster and conspiracy are staring at us. If we're not careful, we might all be wiped out. What do you mean? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. I'm not sure. I just feel that there's a great danger lurking, but I can't see fate clearly. It seems that there's a powerful force distorting this space and time, blinding my perception of fate. Fate Dragon Betty shook her head. She also didn't know what was going on. She just felt that there was a great danger lurking, but she didn't know what the danger was. Okay, I understand. I'll be careful during this time. Hearing this, Xiaoping nodded. In fact, he also vaguely felt that there was a great danger in this eternal light realm. Perhaps he wasn't as clear as Fate Dragon Betty, but he still had a bad premonition. However, he was skilled and daring, and his ability to stay alive was extremely strong. Therefore, even though he knew that this place was full of danger, he still followed. After all, if one wanted to obtain a fortuitous encounter, how could one not take risks? Whoosh. After saying this, he immediately released Fate Dragon Betty back into the world of the classic of mountains and seas. After all, this place was too dangerous for young dragons. If any accidents happened, with his strength, he might not be able to protect her. Is this the place? Xiaoping's figure flickered as he shuttled through the void. In a few breaths, he arrived at the place that Fate Dragon Betty had pointed out. He immediately came to a huge planet. Unfortunately, this planet seemed to be in a state of desolation. There was a deathly stillness everywhere, as if it had been distorted by a great destructive force. All living things on this planet had died, without exception. Even the buildings on this planet had been destroyed. Perhaps because of the passage of time, even these buildings could not withstand the corrosion of time, and gradually weathered away. He walked on this planet and felt a great desolation, as if it was after the end of the world. Oh, what is this? Suddenly, Xiaoping used his divine sense to envelop the entire planet, conducting a carpet search in an attempt to find the secrets of this planet and what treasures were hidden. Boom! At this moment, he sensed that there seemed to be many terrifying space-time cracks appearing in one of the huge mountain ranges on this planet. Each crack extended for thousands of kilometers, and from time to time, terrifying space-time storms would pass through. Even the ancient sages might not be able to withstand such a power. Moreover, there seemed to be a unique flower growing in the depths of these spatial rifts. It was around the size of a palm, and it was translucent. It seemed to contain circles of space-time, Tao markings, and it emanated an unfathomable aura. Master, this is the space-time flower. The azure ox also followed Xiaoping's divine sense and immediately saw the unique flower hidden in the depths of space-time. It was Xiaoping's artifact spirit. The two of them had long reached the realm of one with the artifact, fusing their souls together. Therefore, both of them could use the other's divine sense as their own eyes to sense everything around them. When he saw the flower, the green ox was immediately overjoyed. "Oh my God, I never thought that such a top-notch sacred medicine, the space-time flower, would grow in this place." It is said that such a flower contains the innate power of space-time. It is a fusion of the laws of time and space. After consuming it, one's comprehension of the laws of time and space would increase by more than 100 times. If an immortal sage consumed the space-time flower, he would definitely advance to the peak of the Middle Ages sage with the passage of time. This was equivalent to obtaining an innate body of space-time. However, this sacred medicine is too difficult to produce. In billions of epochs, there might not even be one. The environment it grows in is also extremely harsh. It must be in a stable space-time crack, and it must devour the power of space-time for countless epochs in order to grow. I originally thought that this sacred medicine was just a legend because not many sages have seen it since ancient times. It only appeared in some ancient books. I never thought that I would actually see the space-time flower in this place. He was extremely excited. He had not expected to see such an incredible sacred medicine the moment he entered the eternal light realm. This sacred medicine should have been extinct in the universe a long time ago, as expected of the cave abode of a god. He could find such a sacred medicine anywhere. There were simply too many benefits to be obtained by entering this place. Space-time flower. Xiaoping's eyes suddenly lit up. To be honest, he was now at the peak of the near-ancient realm. He was just one step away from advancing to the Middle Ages realm and comprehending the law of time. He estimated that it would not be long before he could automatically advance to the Middle Ages realm. However, if he could obtain this space-time flower and improve his understanding of the law of time, he might be able to advance to the Middle Ages sage in an instant. One had to know that the near-ancient sages were only existences at the bottom of the eternal light realm. However, it would be different if he advanced to the Middle Ages sage. His combat power would at least increase by several times. At the very least, he would be able to protect himself in the eternal light realm and not become cannon fodder. However, before he could make a move, 13 auras immediately flew over from afar. Among them, 7 were near-ancient peak sages and 6 were Middle Ages sages. Impressively, these sages were all from the Qilin clan. Each of them emitted a tyrannical space-time aura as if they had already suppressed this space-time. Haha, our luck is really too good. Space-time flower. This is the famous space-time flower. It is said that after consuming it, one's understanding of the law of time and space will increase. It is also very beneficial to the Middle Ages sages. Isn't that so? If you want to advance to the ancient sages' realm, you must integrate the law of time and space and raise it to its peak state. Only then can you truly understand the law of creation and advance to the immemorial ancient realm. Without a doubt, this is an opportunity for us to attain the Tao. It is indeed the right decision to come to the eternal light realm. We have just arrived here, and we have already obtained such a great reward. The group of Qilin clan sages laughed out loud. They were wild with joy as they looked at the space-time flower in the space-time crack greedily. They felt as if they had suddenly struck the jackpot of $1 billion. Wait a minute. It seems that there is also someone from the Dragon Clan here. Moreover, it was that guy who wanted to come here. At this moment, an ancient Middle Realm Qilin immediately looked over and noticed Xiaoping's existence. Swoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, more than 10 Qilin clan sages looked over and looked at the weak and lonely Xiaoping mockingly. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 2502, Spacetime Flower, page 1/1. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2498. As expected, there's a 4-legged worm here. A middle ancient Qilin laughed loudly. Looks like we're really lucky. Not only did we get a flower of time and space, but we also got to see a lone dragon. There's nothing better than this. I was really shocked when I first saw it. I thought we were so unlucky to have encountered an ancient dragon. I didn't expect it to be a near ancient dragon. The heavens are really on our side. Isn't that so? A mere near ancient dragon is at the bottom of the eternal realm. How dare he travel alone with such strength? He's really not afraid of death. When these Qilins saw Xiaoping and sensed his strength, they all laughed happily. After all, they had 13 sages, 6 of whom were in the Middle Ancient Realm, and 7 of whom were at the peak of the Near Ancient Realm. They could probably beat this guy up with their eyes closed. It would be effortless. Facing such a weakling, one could imagine how excited and proud they were. Four-legged worm, get over here right now. A Middle Ancient Qilin shouted arrogantly. If I were 1 step slower, I would have broken your legs. How dare you travel alone without any strength? You must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. You're really unlucky to have met us today. Although there's no enmity between us, you're a dragon. If I don't teach you a lesson today, who else can I teach a lesson to? It was very proud of Xiaoping. It wanted to vent its anger from being bullied by the dragon clan on Xiaoping. The other Qilins felt the same way. They had had enough of the dragons. Each of them was arrogant, owed money, and did not return it. They were extremely stingy and arrogant. Who could stand them? Soul Shriek. Xiaoping did not even look at them. He immediately used his infernal golden crow theurgy. Boom! In an instant, with his body as the center, waves of terrifying soul fluctuations were generated. They instantly spread to the entire planet, silently permeating every space and time. Dong! 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 Immediately, the dozen or so Qilins, whether they were in the Near Ancient Realm or the Middle Ancient Realm, were stunned as if they had been struck by lightning. It was as if someone had hammered their heads, and their memories went blank. Previously, when Xiaoping was rampaging in hell, a single soul shriek was enough to annihilate 200,000 void monsters. How could these Qilin sages withstand it? Moreover, he had suppressed the power of his soul shriek. He only wanted to stun these Qilins. If he used his full power, these Qilins would all die. Crash! While the Qilins were in a daze, Xiaoping made a grabbing motion and used the 6 Daos sealing technique to instantly capture all the Qilins and bring them into the mountain and sea scripture world. Moreover, the speed of the battle was simply too fast. There was practically no damage done. Even if these Qilins wanted to call for help, there was nothing they could do. Tui, a bunch of idiotic Qilins. To think that they would dare to act so arrogantly in front of Master with just this bit of strength. They really don't even know how to write the word death. The green ox looked at the captured Qilins in disdain. It had been a long time since it had seen such an idiot. He didn't even know the difference in strength between them. Yet he dared to do such a thing. Wasn't he looking for death? I didn't expect our luck to be so good today. Not only did we find the space-time flower, but we also took the opportunity to capture these lone Qilins. Our luck is really not bad. Seems like the mountain and sea scripture will have a lot of hard work to do. Xiaoping touched his chin. He was in a good mood. This was a good start. Lone Qilins. Within the mountain and sea scripture, Yimeng Yao's mouth twitched. She was speechless and didn't know what to say. These were more than 10 Qilins. If they were in the universe, there would be a huge force that no one would dare to offend. But in front of this kid, there were a bunch of lone Qilins. She had really underestimated Qilins. But after seeing the strength that Xiaoping had displayed, she had to admit that these Qilins were no match for him. If they wanted to fight against Xiaoping, they would have to be at least immemorial ancient realm sages. The bloodline of these Qilins is really interesting. It seems to contain a bit of the power of luck. Xiaoping's consciousness seeped into the bodies of these unconscious Qilins. He could sense that their bloodline was really different from the bloodline of the dragon race. He had once thought of all the legends about Qilins. They were called auspicious beasts by people. It was as if wherever Qilins appeared, they would bring luck and good weather. Perhaps this wasn't some baseless rumor. It was indeed true. These Qilins contained the power of luck within their bodies. They could pry into the trajectory of fate. That was why they would bring benefits every time they appeared. Perhaps the bloodline deep within the bodies of Qilins contained this mysterious power. This was also the power that the gods of the Qilin race grasped. This was the power of the gods. In reality, the power within the bodies of the descendants of the divine beasts was the manifestation of the power of the gods. It wasn't just Cheelants. The descendants of the dragon race, Tautai, Phoenix, and even the descendants of the golden crow of hell were the same. Forget it. I won't look into this for now. I'll pick the flower of time and space first. Xiaoping put aside the matter of studying the Cheelan bloodline for now. He could look into this at any time. The most important thing at the moment was to obtain a large number of treasures in the eternal light realm. This was the most important thing. Swoosh. When he thought of this, he grabbed with his hand and used the golden crow of hell's claw. He easily crossed countless space-time layers and arrived at the depths of the space-time crack. With a thud, this big hand grabbed the flower of time in space. Okay, I finally got it. In the next second, Xiaoping grabbed the flower of time and space with a smile on his face. He could sense that the flower of time and space contained a mysterious power of time and space. The nomological laws of time and the nomological laws of space were perfectly combined. It seemed to be showing him the ultimate mystery of the nomological laws of time and space. Congratulations, Master. The Green Bull was overjoyed. He knew that after obtaining this flower of time and space, he would become a middle-aged saint and comprehend the nomological laws of time. Let's go. I'll find a safe place to cultivate in seclusion and advance to the middle-age realm. After hearing the words of the Dragon of Fate Betty, Xiaoping decided not to hesitate anymore. He would take this opportunity to advance to the middle-age realm and further improve his strength. As for the treasures in the eternal light realm, it wouldn't be too late to look for them after he became stronger. After all, the eternal light realm was so huge that it was impossible to plunder everything in a short period of time. As the saying went, sharpening one's axe would not delay the work of cutting firewood. Only by becoming stronger would he be able to obtain more benefits. This was an unchanging principle since ancient times. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaoping's figure flashed, and he immediately left this place. He headed for an abandoned planet nearby and hid himself in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. Third Sect Leader. Chapter 2499. Not long after Xiaoping left, many powerful sages appeared on the planet. They were all powerful sages from the Cheelan race. They were all at least immemorial ancient realm. Their figures were extremely majestic. They seemed to be above the river of time and space, condensing this space and time. Strange. Why did I suddenly sense that a descendant of the Cheelan race might have met with a calamity here? Why haven't I discovered anything yet? One of the immemorial ancient Cheelan frowned. I had the same feeling. That's why I rushed over. But there are no signs of a battle here. It's very strange. Another Cheelan nodded. The Cheelan race had a telepathic connection with one another. They could sense when someone from the same race was in danger. If they were nearby, they would rush over to help. That was why the Cheelan race was much more united than the dragon race. But their fertility was too weak. They couldn't compare to the dragon race at all. They were known as dragon-shaped stallions. They were basically giving birth to giant dragons with all their might. It was also because there were too many giant dragons that they could suppress the other god-beast races. Since that's the case, our senses can't be wrong. A descendant of the Cheelan race must have met with danger here. But there are no signs of a battle. An ancient Cheelan said, so we have two guesses. The first is that they met with an enemy they couldn't fight against. They were killed in an instant. They didn't even have the strength to fight back. The second is that this place is filled with unknown danger. A terrifying disaster suddenly happened and swallowed all the descendants of the Cheelan. That's why they disappeared without a trace. The many Cheelans exchanged glances. They saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. No matter which guess it was, it proved that this seemingly ordinary place was extremely dangerous. Let's go. Since we're in the eternal light realm, we have to be careful. After all, this is the country of the gods. It's normal for any danger to occur. Even the invincible sages don't dare to say they can survive. Since they've disappeared, we can't get there in time. They're just unlucky. An ancient Cheelan said. The other Cheelans nodded. Although they were very united, there was no need for them to die for some Cheelans who had died long ago. They weren't fools. They would naturally weigh the pros and cons. But after this incident, they were even more cautious. Some places might not seem dangerous on the surface, but if they were careless, they might die. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After exploring the surroundings for a while, these Chilean saints did not find anything, so they could only leave. In a certain space within the world of the classic of mountains and seas, Xiaoping sat cross-legged on the ground with the flower of space-time in his hand. "Green ox, how do I consume the time-space flower?" he asked. "According to the records, it seems that we can just swallow it directly. There is no need to do anything too troublesome." The green ox replied. "So that's how it is. That's easy." Xiaoping nodded and swallowed the space-time flower without hesitation. Rumble. After Xiaoping swallowed the space-time flower, the energy of this space-time flower immediately erupted in his body, gushing out huge fragments of the laws of time and space, fusing with every corner of his body. Xiaoping sensed the magic power within his body skyrocketing, and the countless fragments of the law of space rapidly gathered together, forming a total of 3,000 huge fragments of the law of space. Crash! Countless fragments of the law of space gathered in the depths of his sea of consciousness, and the huge magic power also increased rapidly. In the end, the law of space in his body was impressively perfected. A total of 3,000 fragments of the law of space gathered together and impressively condensed into a hexagonal law of space crystal, emitting rich spatial energy all around it. The crystal of the law of space represented that Xiaoping's law of space was completely perfected. At this moment, his body had also undergone earth-shaking changes. Every cell was covered by a huge amount of spatial energy, and every cell was crystallized and spatialized. It was as if Xiaoping's body at this moment was condensed from countless spatial bodies. The magic power in his body also grew endlessly, and it was so huge that it was frightening. Without a doubt, he had now truly condensed into a spatial body, and all the power of space had condensed into one. He found that his soul, body, and magic power had all eroded the characteristics of space, and it was as if he could merge with the void at any time and become invisible. Every time he traveled through the void, it would not cause any void fluctuations. This feeling, Xiaoping found that after his body had completely spatialized, his speed had increased by many times. With a slight movement, it was as if he had turned into a beam of light, and every cell in his body had turned into light particles. Space was speed. When the speed reached the speed of light, it could interfere with time, causing the surrounding time to slow down and distort the flow of time. He could vaguely sense the existence of time power and the law of time. It was as if he was currently only a step away from the Middle Ancient realm. Breakthrough. At this moment, when the law of space in his body was completely perfected, Xiaoping did not hesitate to seize this flash of inspiration. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to immediately break through the law of time and step into the Middle Ancient realm. Previously, he had devoured a few time fruits, and he had a lot of experience in comprehending the law of time. In fact, before this, he had sensed the dimension of time several times. Because of this bit of comprehension, as well as the fragments of the law of time left in his body by the time fruits, Xiaoping's pair of hell golden crow eyes seemed to see through the void, and he sensed the existence of the dimension of time. Dong! The soul power in his body blasted out, tearing the void and merging with the origin of the universe. At this moment, his body also went through a tremendous change. It was as if at this moment, the flow of time was no longer able to affect his body, and there were even traces of extremely mysterious time power in every cell. The power of time and space gathered in his body at this moment. With Xiaoping's body as the center, the flow of time within a range of 1,000 light years seemed to be a little different from the void of other universes under the cover of the domain, distorting the space-time here. Although this was just a small change, it was a qualitative change, as if he had been reborn. I've finally advanced to the Middle Ancient realm. Xiaoping's body trembled, and his eyes shone with a terrifying light. It was as if the symbol of a clock appeared in the depths of his pupils. He knew that, at this moment, he had finally comprehended the law of time, grasped the power of time, and taken a crucial step forward. This was also the bottleneck that had trapped all the saints, but at this moment, Xia Ping had broken through it. The space domain on his body also began to transform into the space-time domain. Chapter 2500. This is the Middle Ancient Realm. Xia Ping sensed that after ascending to the Middle Ancient Realm, even the way he perceived the universe seemed to be different. He could sense the laws of time and space flowing around him. His dermic powers had also increased exponentially. It was more than 10 times stronger than before. It was as if every cell in his body was filled with dense dermic powers. A large number of fragments of the laws of time were scattered around his body. The few time fruits he had devoured earlier had finally taken effect. The fragments of the laws of time were quickly activated in his body and fused with every cell in his body. My divine sense has become stronger. Xia Ping also sensed that his soul energy had also improved by leaps and bounds. If his divine sense had only covered a range of 1,000 light years before, it had now reached a range of 10,000 light years. This also caused his soul power to be so tyrannical that it made one's hair stand on end. If he were to use the soul shriek now, even the ancient sages would be affected. Moreover, his understanding of the laws of space had also become deeper. He could teleport 10,000 light years with a single thought. Even ancient sages might not be able to catch up with such speed. The golden crow of Hell's bloodline has also become denser. He also discovered that the seal on his golden crow of Hell's bloodline had been unlocked after he had ascended to the Middle Ancient Realm. By now, he had awakened 300 billion golden crow hell cells in his body. Compared to before, he had awakened 100 billion more golden crow hell cells. Right now, the golden crow of Hell's bloodline in his body was unbelievably dense. It was as if every bone in his body had been eroded to a dark gold color. It was as if they had become divine bones. The blood in his body was extremely powerful. Any drop of blood could set a planet on fire and turn it into a boundless sea of fire that would not be extinguished even after billions of years. However, these changes were just child's play. The most important change was that Xia Ping's domain had undergone a huge transformation. It had evolved from the previous space domain to the space-time domain. This was a qualitative change. Space-time domain. Xia Ping circulated the power in his body and slowly released the space-time domain on his body. It slowly covered 10,000 light years. This domain not only contained the laws of space, but it also contained the laws of time. These two types of laws were completely different, yet they existed in perfect harmony. Within the range of this space-time domain, the spatial laws could imprison all spatial barriers, and the temporal laws could control the flow of time, affecting the changes in the enemy's perception of time. Under the envelopment of the space-time domain, it was as if the embryonic form of a world had enveloped him. There was nowhere for him to hide. Very strong. Xia Ping's eyes flashed with a terrifying radiance. He had finally experienced the tyrannical power of the Middle Ages sages. Under the space-time domain, mortals were unable to struggle or move at all. Unless someone had the same brute strength as him that could pierce through all domains, as well as an unparalleled strong mana, they would not be able to break free at all and could only obediently be a caged bird. The saints of the near ancient era were as weak as infants in front of the saints of the middle era. The space-time domain suppressed down, changing the flow of time around the sage. It was as if time had slowed down dozens of times. Where else could the sage escape to? He also realized that under his space-time domain, he could completely control the flow of time on his body. It could slow down the flow of time. 100 years in his space-time domain would only be 1 year in the outside world. It could also speed up the flow of time. A year in his space-time domain would be 100 years in the outside world. However, the power to control the time laws could only be carried out within his own space-time domain. After leaving this domain, it would not be able to affect the void of other universes. Moreover, controlling the flow of time required a lot of mana. Ordinary sages would not be able to control it for long. Therefore, they would only have such power during intense battles. If someone's space-time domain could cover the entire universe, wouldn't that mean that they could speed up or slow down the universe's time at any time? Xiaoping suddenly thought of this. However, it was impossible to cover the entire universe with one space-time domain. Even the gods of the previous universe era could not do this. This was beyond the imagination of all living beings. It seems that controlling the time laws is not as simple as controlling the flow of time. It seems that I can see some scenes from an ancient era. Xiaoping continued to understand the magical uses of the space-time domain. He realized that when he cast the space-time domain, the entire space-time would become his absolute domain. It was as if anything that had happened in this place would leave behind an image in the depths of space-time. He could completely trace back to ancient times and see what had happened in this place in the past. Amazing. Xiaoping had a new understanding of how powerful the sages of the Middle Ages were. If the sages of the Middle Ages wanted to personally take action and capture a criminal, they could completely retrieve the space-time images left in this place. The criminal would have nowhere to hide. Not many people could escape the pursuit of the sages of the Middle Ages. Wait, if that's the case, then wouldn't I be discovered by some of the sages of the Middle Ages when I committed crimes in various places? Xiaoping was shocked. He suddenly remembered that he might have left a space-time image of himself somewhere. This might be discovered by the sages of the Middle Ages and his true identity as Wu Wudi. Host, please rest assured. At this moment, the system's voice sounded. With the help of the system, whatever the host does or experiences will not leave any traces in this space-time. Therefore, even an invincible sage would not be able to trace the host's traces from the distant space-time through this point. I see. Upon hearing this, Xiaoping immediately felt relieved. He now understood why he had done so many earth-shattering things. Among them, there was no lack of almighties above the sages of the Middle Ages to hunt him down. However, even so, they cannot trace his whereabouts. Apart from the fact that he did things secretly and did not leave any clues, the systems helped to cover up the image that he left behind in space-time was also a very important thing. Otherwise, he would have been captured by the other angry sages long ago. Why would he wait until now? Of course, this was not something that the system could do. When the other sages of the Middle Ages and above fought with each other, the power that erupted was enough to shatter space-time. This way, space-time would be distorted, and there would be no traces of the past. Therefore, this power was only effective against enemies below the sages of the Middle Ages. The other powerful sages also knew about this. Naturally, they would not leave such information behind and let other sages know about his secret. Chapter 25:01. Several days later, Xiaoping had finally stabilized his cultivation base at the early ancient Middle Realm. The space-time domain on his body had also completely stabilized. He had also gained a preliminary control over his magic power and soul power that had skyrocketed. He was now more than 10 times stronger than before. Especially after mastering the space-time domain, he could control the flow of time around him. This was not as simple as a slight increase in his combat power. Swoosh! At this moment, his figure flashed, and he walked out of the mountain and sea scripture world. After all, the Eternal Light Realm was a world of relics with countless treasures. He could not continue to stay in this place. He had to continue searching for treasures. Otherwise, the treasures in the Eternal Light Realm would probably be snatched by others. How could he have a chance? As soon as he appeared, Xiaoping's heart shook. His divine sense spread 10,000 light-years away and sensed the situation in this void. He immediately sensed that there was an intense battle going on thousands of light-years away. This was the benefit of having a powerful divine sense. Usually, he could observe and sense his enemies from thousands of light-years away. However, the range of the enemy's divine sense was at most a few hundred light-years away. It would be amazing if they could reach 1,000 light-years away. How could they detect him? Therefore, if he wanted to, he could immediately attack his enemies from thousands of light-years away. His enemies would not even know what had happened before they died silently. Because of this, the higher one's cultivation base was, the greater the difference in strength between them. It was also more difficult to challenge someone of a higher cultivation base. It had almost become impossible. Thousands of light years away, there were dozens of ancient Middle Ages saints fighting intensely. They were from the Chilan clan, the Dragon clan, the Phoenix clan, the Pishio clan, and other divine beast clans. They had all reached the peak of the ancient Middle Realm and had perfect control over the space-time domain. Every time they clashed, the space-time power seemed to collide violently, causing the void in all directions to explode. Many void turbulences were created and space-time cracks were formed everywhere. Cultivators below the ancient Middle Ages saint level could not get close to such a scene at all. If they dared to get close, they would die. If an immortal saint got close, he would probably be torn apart by the space-time cracks and die without a complete corpse. Even an immortal body could not resist the space-time turbulence. Oh, what exactly are they fighting for? Xiaoping raised his eyebrows. He could sense that the reason why these sages were engaged in such an intense battle was because one of the Phoenix race's sages had obtained a treasure that made the other sages drool. Hand it over immediately, Feng Shi-san. You don't deserve this Zhurong herb. An ancient saint of the Pishio race yelled at one of the ancient saints of the Phoenix race. Bullsh*T, I got this Zhurong grass from a certain planet. First come, first served. How could I give it to you? You're dreaming. The ancient saint of the Phoenix clan, Feng Shi-san, sneered and remained unmoved. Feng Shi-san, you're the one who's dreaming. What do you mean by first come, first served? The universe has always been a place where the strong prey on the weak. If you can't keep the treasure, then give it to us. You don't have the strength to do so, so don't embarrass yourselves in front of us. Hand it over immediately, or you'll die. Bullsh*T, you want to snatch the Zhurong herb in front of me with your strength? Wait until you have the strength to say such words. Our Phoenix race is not to be trifled with. This Zhurong herb is something our Phoenix race must obtain. The group of sages yelled angrily and confronted each other with equal harshness. Obviously, this Zhurong herb was too precious. Even if they were all sages of the Middle Ages and had the advantage in numbers, there was no way they would back down. They could only fight to the death. Zhurong herb. Hearing this, Xiaoping blinked his eyes. He immediately asked the knowledgeable green ox what kind of treasure it was that caused so many sages to fight for it at all costs. They would rather die than give it up. It must be an incredible treasure that was beyond imagination. No way. It's the legendary Zhurong herb? Are you kidding me? Isn't this just a legend? How could there be such a sacred herb in the universe? The green ox screamed in disbelief, as if he had seen something unbelievable. Oh, then what is this thing? Xiaoping asked curiously. Master, if it's true, then it's an incredible treasure. The green ox said excitedly. It said that there was once a god in the universe named Zhurong. He was said to be one of the strongest fire elemental gods. Wherever he appeared, there would be a sea of fire that filled the sky, burning everything into ashes. The Zhurong herb was watered with the blood of this god Zhurong. It was a sacred herb of heaven and earth that grew from it. It contained an incredible amount of fire origin energy. Some people once said that perhaps this Zhurong herb was not just a simple sacred herb. It might be a little close to a divine herb. No wonder the sages of the Phoenix race went crazy after picking this sacred herb. Obviously, the benefits of this Zhurong herb to the Phoenix race were too great. After consuming it, it would greatly purify the Phoenix bloodline in one's body and enhance the fire origin energy. To be honest, this sacred herb not only has a great effect on the sages of the Middle Ages, but even the sages of the ancient era would not miss this sacred herb. The green ox said that the Zhurong herb was extremely precious and rare in the universe. Compared to sacred herbs like the flower of enlightenment and the crimson blood dragon divine herb, it was even better. At this point, the green ox became even more excited, almost unable to suppress it. It completely did not think that it would see such a legendary sacred herb one day. Even its old master, the Mountain River Saint, had only heard of the name of this sacred herb. He only knew about it from an ancient book, but he had never seen it before. Now it actually appeared in front of him alive. What a lucky encounter. There's such a thing? Seems like it's indeed an incredible treasure. Xiaoping touched his chin, extremely excited. Since this was a fire-sacred herb, then it would definitely have great and immeasurable benefits for his golden crow bloodline of hell. He instantly smiled. He did not think that he would find such a precious sacred herb as soon as he appeared. His luck was really too good. Master, we have to act quickly and snatch this Zhurong herb. If we continue to delay, there might be ancient sages or even immemorial sages fighting for it. The Green Ox was worried that there would be more and more competitors. This was just the beginning, just an appetizer. Okay. Xiaoping's figure flashed and traveled thousands of light years. His speed was unbelievably fast. In a breath's time, he immediately arrived near the battlefield. Chapter 2502. At this moment, the battle between the dozens of saints was getting more and more intense. It was as if they were fighting with all their might. They were giving it their all, causing the universe to crumble and the ground to crack. Space-time cracks appeared everywhere. Fortunately, this was the eternal light realm, which was once the abode of the gods. It was extremely sturdy. Even if the saints were fighting, they would not be able to damage much of the eternal light realm. If they were in the outside world, a great thousand world would probably be destroyed by these saints. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in the sky above these saints. It was Xiaoping. Who is it? Many of the saints of the Middle Ages were taken aback. Their hearts were pounding with fear because Xiaoping's appearance was truly soundless and did not cause any fluctuations in space-time. Moreover, their divine senses could not detect Xiaoping's existence at all. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. For a moment, they were so scared that they stopped fighting. Bloodline divine ability, infernal golden crow claw. In an instant, Xiaoping had no intention of talking to these saints. He immediately attacked them with his claw. Boom! After advancing to the ancient middle realm and comprehending the law of time, Xiaoping's strength was so tyrannical that it made people's hair stand on end. With his claw, the flow of time within a radius of 10,000 light-years slowed down. Space-time was distorted. Vaguely, a dark golden claw appeared in the depths of the void. It was so huge that it seemed to be able to easily crush a planet. On the surface of the dark golden claw, dense dark golden runes appeared. The entire claw seemed to be condensed from the rich origin of fire energy, emitting an unparalleled destructive aura. It was as if the entire space-time stopped when this claw appeared. Countless space-time images appeared, as if an epic history was presented, filled with vicissitudes and ancientness. How is this possible? Where did this guy come from? What's going on? These saints were scared half to death. They had never felt such a tyrannical space-time force before. It was as if this claw was attacking them, and all of their auras were locked down. Not only was their aura locked down, but time and space had also been frozen. They were like bugs under this giant claw, with nowhere to escape. Even though they tried to use their space-time domain to break free from the law of time, it was useless. Their strength was as weak as a baby, and they could not resist at all. Dong! With just a single strike, the bodies of these saints were shattered. It was as if they had been crushed into meat paste by a powerful space-time force. They could not even hold on for a second. I'm too strong now. Xiaoping could feel a tyrannical power gushing out from the depths of his body. He discovered that his every move could affect the flow of time and space. As the claw slashed out, the power of time and space revolved around one another, tearing apart each other. Ordinary, undying sages would most likely be killed instantly by this claw, their souls destroyed. He didn't die? Xiaoping raised his eyebrows. He realized that the saints from the Middle Ages who had been struck by his claws were not dead yet. However, they were still saints at the peak of the Middle Ages realm who had comprehended the space-time domain. Their vitality was extremely strong, and they were not easy to kill. Even so, those who were struck by his claws were still severely injured. Some of the saints from the Middle Ages who had fragile bodies even fell into a state of near death, their breaths hanging by a thread. What kind of dragon are you? The saint from the Middle Ages realm who had been killed by his claws were shocked. They did not expect that they would be killed like babies with just a single strike. The other party was only a saint from the Dragon Clan in the early Middle Ages realm, but he was able to unleash such a terrifying space-time force. It was simply beyond their imagination. You can call me Wu-Woody. With a loud bang, Xia Ping reached out with his hand and captured all the saints from the Middle Ancient era. Even the saints from the Phoenix race fell into his hands. These saints from the Middle Ages were not a match for him when they were at their peak, let alone now that they had been severely injured by his claws. They could not resist his power at all. In just a breath's time, these severely injured saints fell into his hands. He performed the 6 Daos sealing technique to seal the power in their bodies and directly imprison them in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. The Zhurong grass naturally fell into his hands. The Zhurong grass. This is the legendary Zhurong grass. It's unbelievable. The green bull next to him could not help but exclaim in excitement. Xiaoping also fixed his gaze on the Zhurong grass in his hands. On the surface, it looked like a 30-centimeter tall grass, but its entire body was made of red lava. It emitted a scorching heat that was at least 100 million degrees Celsius. Ordinary life forms would be instantly burned to death by the Zhurong grass if they came close. Vaguely, the Zhurong grass emitted a high and mighty divinity. It seemed like this divinity was the reason it was superior to other sage medicines. Even the most inexperienced person could sense the rich fire source energy contained in the Zhurong grass when they saw it. It was simply more powerful than all the fire sage medicines that Xiaoping had seen before. This is unbelievable. Looking at the Zhurong herb in his hand, Xiaoping could feel the golden crow of hell bloodline in his body boiling. It was as if every single golden crow of hell cell in his body was surging with a desire to devour it, as if it wanted to immediately take all the energy in this sacred herb for itself. Even with his strong willpower, he almost could not suppress this emotion. This was simply the purest instinct of a golden crow of hell. One could imagine how much Xia Ping desired the Zhurong grass. All of a sudden, a strong sense of danger came from deep within Xia Ping's body, as well as an instinctive warning from deep within his bloodline. Brat, hand over the Zhurong grass in your hands. In an instant, a huge dark hand slapped down from thousands of light years away. It seemed to freeze the space-time within thousands of light years, producing a terrifying space-time force that suppressed everything. A mighty force that shook space-time was born at this moment, destroying everything. It seemed like even the saints of the Middle Ages would be easily slapped to death by this palm, unable to withstand it. Oh no, it's the ancient saint. The green bull's expression turned grave. His previous master, the Mountain River Saint, was an ancient saint. He was a powerful existence that surpassed the Middle-Age saints. He had comprehended the law of creation. He was almost like a god, a powerhouse that was far beyond the imagination of the Middle-Age saints. Although Xia Ping had advanced to the early Middle Age stage, he still felt a great sense of danger when he faced the ancient saint's attack. It was as if he had a premonition of death at any time. Chapter 25:03 Golden Crow Wings of Hell. Suddenly, a pair of dark golden wings appeared on Xia Ping's body and wrapped around his entire body. These were the wings of the Golden Crow of Hell, and they contained strong space-time power. Whoosh! In just an instant, the space-time power on his body distorted the space-time, and he entered a different world. No power could lock onto his body. It was as if he had reached the realm of invulnerability. Even the dark hand couldn't catch him. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the dark hand crushed down and instantly shattered the space-time within hundreds of light years. Explosions occurred everywhere, and everything was destroyed. Just then, a huge figure stepped out from the void. It looked like a lion, and there was white fog around it. It seemed like it was riding on the clouds. Tao! Xiaoping recognized it right away. It was the famous divine beast Tao. It had reached immemorial ancient realm, and was a strong existence that had comprehended the creation law. Brat, you actually managed to dodge my palm. You're quite capable. The ancient Tao Wu said, "How about this? Hand over the Juron grass, and I will allow you to run for 3 seconds. If you can escape within 3 seconds, you can live. Otherwise, you will die. It only gave Xia Ping 3 seconds to escape. That was its biggest mercy. It had to get the Juron grass because Taowu was a fire attribute being similar to a phoenix. Therefore, the Juron grass was extremely beneficial to the Taowu race. If the immemorial ancient Taowu could get the Juron grass, it would probably be able to advance to immemorial ancient realm very quickly. It might even be able to advance to invincible realm. It definitely wouldn't give up on such a fortuitous encounter. Escape for 3 seconds. Hearing this, Xia Ping immediately laughed. No need. We still don't know who will win and who will lose. Do you really think you can beat me? Arrogant. The ancient Taowu hollered. A brat who has just entered immemorial ancient realm dares to boast in front of me. Who gave you such courage? If you haven't advanced to immemorial ancient realm, you won't know how terrifying the immemorial ancient saints are. After leveling up to the immemorial ancient state and comprehending the laws of creation, my body would be filled with the aura of creation at every single moment. With just a casual punch, I would be able to change the substance of everything in the world. I can even distort your body structure, your magic power, your soul, and even the laws of space and time on your body, causing your space and time domain to completely collapse. In fact, after I completely distort your space-time laws and destroy them, I can even turn you into any kind of creature at will. It's not a problem even if I turn you into a dog. You little brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Since you want to die, this old man will fulfill your wish. Boom. As soon as it finished speaking, it immediately attacked, throwing a punch at Xia Ping. This punch simply surpassed everything. It ignored the distance between time and space. This was a punch that belonged to the creation realm. The fist was surrounded by the creation realm chi. Xia Ping could sense that if he was hit by this punch, all the substances in his body would change. For example, water could turn into earth, earth into fire, fire into gold, gold into water, and so on. In the face of the creation realm chi, any substance in the world could be changed at will. If it were a normal treasure that met with the creation realm chi, it would just be swept by and corroded into the interior of the treasure, causing the treasure to turn into a pile of scrap metal. It wouldn't be able to be of any use in the face of the ancient saint. Not only would treasures change, but even living beings would change as well. They would be able to turn into all kinds of living beings. Humans could also turn into pigs, dogs, cows, and sheep. This was the terrifying power of the ancient saint who had comprehended the laws of creation. This creation realm, chi, could be said to be an undying substance. It was the power of creation that was born after the laws of space and time were activated to the extreme. Amazing. Is this the power of the ancient saint? Xia Ping's eyes lit up. Right now, he could truly feel how strong the ancient saint was. This was a saint who was more than 10 times stronger than the ancient saint. With the creation realm chi and the usage of the laws of creation, even the space and time domain wouldn't be able to block it. If the creation realm chi were to invade his body, all the laws of space and time on his body would be changed and destroyed. He wouldn't be a match for it. However, it wasn't that he couldn't block the creation realm chi. Boom! In an instant, he took out a treasure, the Book of Karma, and cast a supreme magical power, Karma Barrier. Immediately, with Xia Ping's body as the center, he was surrounded by a transparent Karma Barrier. This was a defensive magical power that far surpassed the world barrier. Vaguely, the transparent wall contained the laws of karma that intertwined with each other. It contained the power of the 6 paths, reincarnation, and other unimaginable laws. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, the ancient swan knee's fist blasted over and hit the karma barrier hard. What? Immediately, the ancient swan knee's pupils shrank. It sensed that its invincible punch had been forcefully blocked. It was as if there was an impassable barrier in front of it. Even with its creation realm chi, it couldn't corrode this strange barrier. It was as if this barrier had reached the realm of impenetrable. Any power that came into contact with it would turn invisible. What kind of treasure is this? It can actually block my laws of creation? The primordial Swanee was taken aback. It had seen many sacred artifacts before. It had even seen peerless sacred artifacts before. However, it had never seen such a strange and powerful magic treasure. It seemed that this strange book had given birth to a higher level of power. It seemed to contain the unfathomable karma great Tao and recorded countless laws of information. From it, it could feel chaos. It was eternal, ancient, and unfathomable. In front of this book, it was as small as an ant. This has nothing to do with you. Die. Xiaoping wasn't interested in talking to the ancient swan and I. Ignorant junior. How dare a mere saint from the Middle Ages act so arrogantly in front of the ancient swan and I? This kind of treasure isn't something a junior like you can have. After I kill you, this treasure will be mine. The ancient Swanee's eyes were filled with greed. Who's the idiot here? Swan and I. Xiaoping's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he threw a punch. Supreme Theurgy, Sun God Fist. At this moment, when he had advanced to the Middle Ages saint level, the Sun God Fist had also undergone an earth-shattering change. It had undergone a huge transformation. It had also integrated the infernal Golden Crow's flame power, making this Theurgy extremely powerful. Dong! When this punch was thrown, it was as if the Vairocana Buddha had descended. It emitted endless golden light, as if a blazing sun had been born, burning through the ages and destroying everything. This punch seemed to encompass the entire universe and penetrate through the past and present. The laws of time and space intertwined in the depths of the fist, and a terrifying power of destruction erupted from the depths of the fist. Chapter 2504. What? In an instant, the ancient Tao Wu's hair stood on end. Even though it had underestimated Xiaoping, it still did not dare to underestimate this destructive punch. Damn it, where did this kid come from? The power of his mystical fire is earth-shattering, and it seems to be filled with the power to burn the void and destroy all matter. Even my creation law can't change its attribute. The ancient Tao Wu was shocked. To be honest, after becoming an ancient sage and mastering the creation law, its power could simply crush all sages below the Middle Ages. These sages were like ants to it. No matter what kind of attack the enemy unleashed, it could instantly change the enemy's magic power, divine sense, rule, and other attributes, turning the enemy's power into nothingness. It was as if dozens of nuclear bombs were bombarding it. With a single thought, it could change the molecular arrangement of the nuclear bombs, causing them to become empty and unable to even explode. But even so, the creation chi was not omnipotent. There were many special minerals in the universe, such as soundstone, soulstone, lifestone, divine stone, and so on. These substances contained unique arrangements and the power of law, which even the creation law could not change. There were also some tyrannical sages with extremely strong power of law, forming an extremely sturdy space-time domain that even the creation law could not easily shake. The infernal Golden Crow's flames were such a unique and powerful force. When the flames burned, there was nothing it could not burn. Even when the creation chi seeped in, it was quickly evaporated. One could imagine how shocked the ancient Tao was. Its creation law could not affect this kid, and it could not even get close to him. This was simply unbelievable. Dong! Before the ancient swan and I could figure out what was going on, the punch had already landed on its body. A terrifying, destructive flame energy erupted from the depths of its body. It was as if a sun had exploded at this moment, giving birth to a terrifying, destructive power. In an instant, it suddenly felt an aura of death. If it allowed the power of fire to invade its body, it was afraid that its soul would be instantly burned to ashes. Tao Wu's magical power, mist void. At this critical moment of life and death, the ancient Swanee suddenly displayed the Swanee clan's innate magic. Its body exploded in an instant, turning into a cloud of white mist. It was formless and formless, gathering and dispersing without a trace. Crash! In the next second, it directly got rid of the attack of the Yang God Fist, and its whole body merged into the void. It seemed that every wisp of fog was its body, and it was everywhere. Dong! A sun exploded at this moment, instantly producing a temperature of several billion degrees Celsius. Most of the matter within a radius of several light years was completely vaporized by the terrifying temperature. In the face of such an explosion, even the body of an ancient sage would be blown to death. At the same time, balls of dark golden flames exploded, seemingly forming small suns that burned in all directions, turning the void into a boundless sea of fire. Most life forms would not be able to survive under such a sea of fire. However, this ancient Swanee still managed to survive. It turned into wisps of mist and blended into the void, as if hiding in the depths of a dimension. No power could harm its body. This is Swanee's god art. Xiaoping raised his eyebrows. He did not expect this ancient Swanee to get rid of his attack so easily. At this moment, he suddenly thought of the Swanee's natural magical power, mist transformation. To be honest, this bloodline magic was famous even in the universe. Once the Swanee's body turned into mist, it would be in a relatively invincible state, and no attack would be able to harm its body. It was as if it was in the realm of being invulnerable and untouchable. Of course, once this magic was used, it would also be unable to harm the enemy. Even so, it was difficult for ordinary people to kill a Swanee. After all, once the Swanee used this magic, it could easily escape, and no race would be able to catch up. Brat, very good. You're really capable. You actually forced me to use Swanee's mist transformation magic. As a Middle Ancient Realm sage, you should be proud. This ancient Swanee was furious, and its voice came from all directions. It seemed that every wisp of mist in the depths of the void was its body, but every wisp of mist was just its clone. It was now extremely angry. To be honest, it thought that it would be a piece of cake to kill this brat. Killing someone from the Middle Ancient era was an easy task. This was simply a free advantage. But who would have thought that this brat had unlimited god arts, numerous magic treasures, and tyrannical combat strength? He actually forced it to use Swanee's god art. One can imagine how angry it was right now. Just you wait, I'll immediately summon my comrades to kill you. You definitely won't be able to leave the eternal light boundary alive. This ancient Swanee was enraged, and it planned to summon its comrades. It knew that it could not kill this brat who had many tricks up his sleeves. However, if it summoned enough comrades, or even an immemorial sage from the Swanee race, this brat would not be able to escape even if he had wings. This brat would not be able to escape even if he had wings. He would definitely die. Although it was difficult for it to swallow a treasure like the Juron grass, if it did not do this, it would not be able to stop this brat. If it could not kill this brat, it would not be able to obtain anything when the time came. In that case, it would share a portion of the benefits and summon its comrades from the Swanee race. This way, it would still be able to obtain some benefits. Summon comrades? There's no need. You won't have such a chance. With a whoosh, Xiaoping took out another hell treasure, the reincarnation brush. His face was expressionless as he instilled the powerful power of space and time into the depths of the brush. No chance? Brat, do you know what you're saying? Do you think you can kill this old man with your feeble strength? Under the Swanee race's mist transformation, let alone you, even an immemorial sage might not be able to kill this old man. Do you understand? The ancient Swanee laughed heartily as if it had heard the funniest joke in the world. But in the next second, its laughter came to an abrupt halt. This was because it instantly sensed that the dark golden brush had lifted and was pointing at its soul from afar. It was clearly in a state of mist, fused with the void and impervious to all techniques. However, at this moment, it felt a mysterious and tyrannical force lock onto its soul. It was as if an invisible karmic thread was connected from one end to the other. It could not escape or struggle free. Damn it, what kind of treasure is this? The ancient Swanee's hair stood on end. It was more frightened than ever before. It was clearly just a brush, but it was more ferocious and terrifying than any treasure it had ever seen. It was as if the tip of the brush contained a terrifying sharpness that could easily tear apart the universe. It was as if the brush had grasped karma, outlined reincarnation, and determined life and death. Chapter 2505. Run. The ancient Taowu was trembling. Even though it was confident in its bloodline magic, its instincts as an ancient sage still warned it. It immediately performed its magic and tried to escape thousands of light years away. But it was too late. Boom! In an instant, the reincarnation brush touched the ancient Taowu's soul gently. A terrifying ray of light followed the karma line and bombarded the ancient Taowu's soul. The so-called mist power did not have any effect. The ancient Taowu let out a shrill scream. It felt as if it had been hit by the wrath of heaven. Its entire soul was being torn apart by this incredible power. It felt as if it was being judged by the god of the underworld. No matter where it hid, it could not escape. How is this possible? I'm an ancient sage of the Taowu race. How can I be killed by a puny sage from the Middle Ages? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. The ancient Taowu roared. It was an ancient sage who had comprehended the law of creation. It had even used the natural power of the Taowu race, Mist Void. Even a sage from the Middle Ages might not be able to kill it. But against a mere sage from the Middle Ages, it could not even escape. It had thought that it would be a great opportunity to obtain the treasure. Who would have thought that this would be the path to death? Not only did it not obtain the treasure, but it was also killed by the enemy. Crack! In the next second, the ancient Taowu's soul was crushed and turned into ashes. Its gigantic body also fell from the depths of the void. Countless mists gathered together, once again condensing into the corpse of an ancient Swanee. Its body still emitted an unparalleled aura, suppressing the void. Its eyes were wide open, showing its unwillingness and shock. It had died with grievances. Unfortunately, this huge corpse was like an empty shell. It no longer had any soul power. The reincarnation brush is getting more and more powerful. Xiaoping was very satisfied with the reincarnation brush. As he grew stronger, the power that the reincarnation brush could exert became more and more terrifying. It could even kill an ancient sage from a distance. In particular, the karma power of the reincarnation brush could ignore any power of law. It could directly kill the enemy along the karma line. This power was boundlessly terrifying. However, using such a terrifying karmic attack did not come without a price. The power of this attack would consume almost a third of his magic power. He estimated that he wouldn't be able to unleash many attacks in a short period of time. He could only use this as a trump card. Even so, it was enough to make the ancient sages fear him. I've struck gold this time. Xiaoping made a grabbing motion and immediately found a storage ring on the primordial Swanee's body. The storage ring contained a large amount of the primordial Swanee's treasures and the various gains it had obtained in the cosmic light dimension. With just a sweep of his divine sense, he discovered that the storage ring contained 5 or 6 stalks of sacred medicine. Each stalk of sacred medicine was priceless. Although they couldn't compare to a natural treasure like the Juron grass, they were still rare treasures in the universe. For example, the stone spider orchid, fig, rootless vine, thyme, etc. All of them were priceless sacred medicines. We're rich. We're really rich. When the green ox sensed these holy medicines, it was about to drool. As long as it was given enough time, it could use the seeds of these holy medicines to cultivate even more precious holy medicines. To be honest, even when its old master, the Mountain River Saint, was still alive, he couldn't find so many holy medicines. After all, holy medicines weren't something that could be found everywhere. It required a certain degree of opportunity and luck. Yes, and ores. Other than that, Xiaoping also found many precious ores on the primordial Swanee's body. They seemed to be rare treasures in the universe, and even those that the ancient sages took a fancy to could not be obtained. After all, the ancient sages were beings that had grasped the laws of creation. Whatever they wanted, they could easily fabricate material and created out of thin air. To mortals, there is actually no difference between the ancient sages and gods. Thus, those at the ancient sages took a fancy to where all treasures that could not be created by the laws of creation. They were definitely rare treasures in the universe, containing unique laws of heaven and earth as well as the power of source of the universe. For example, the five elements jade. This was a precious jade that contained the power of the five elements. It was indestructible and was a top-grade material for forging sacred tools. It could forge powerful treasures that contained the power of the five elements. The dazzling crystal was a light yellow crystal that emitted a faint purple glow, causing one to feel dizzy. It was extremely hard, and many sages used it to forge spaceships that could withstand the destruction of spatial storms. There were also sages who used it to forge defensive treasures, forging armors, helmets, and other treasures that could block the attacks of enemies and minimize the damage suffered by oneself to the greatest extent. Jade rubber was an item that was produced once every 100 million years by the jade oak tree, a spiritual wood of heaven and earth. It possessed unparalleled flexibility and was enough to block the majority of physical attacks. It had a wide range of uses. If it covered the surface of a spaceship, it could greatly weaken the attacking power of enemies. The Mirage Stone was a unique cosmic gem that could create a mirage. Some sages used these gems to set up a mirage formation to cover their tracks and create an illusory barrier. Good stuff. Xiaoping rubbed his chin. These unique cosmic ores could be completely absorbed by the golden slime. According to the characteristics of Shao Jin's body, after absorbing these ores, it would be able to possess the abilities of these ores. It could even use its natural ability to continuously produce the same kind of ores. It could be said that if some of the ores that were on the verge of extinction were devoured by Shao Jin, it could completely produce a large number of the same kind of cosmic ores again. This was equivalent to turning the golden slime into an endless vein of ore. Moreover, these cosmic ores could also speed up Shao Jin's evolution. Let the world tree devour this ancient Swanee's corpse. Xiaoping rubbed his chin and moved his thoughts. He immediately mobilized the power of the world tree. Immediately, the ancient Swanee's corpse was grabbed by the branches of the world tree and frantically devoured the energy and creation chi of the ancient sage's corpse. 7 days. Xiaoping sensed that it would take at least 7 days for the world tree to completely devour the energy of the ancient Swanee's corpse. Only then would it be able to condense a creation fruit. He was very much looking forward to it. He did not know what it would feel like to devour a creation fruit. Perhaps he could take the opportunity to comprehend a trace of the mysteries of the laws of creation. And after obtaining the corpse of the ancient sage, the world tree also seemed to have obtained great benefits. After devouring traces of creation chi, its body also seemed to have undergone a mysterious change. Let's go. Xiaoping's figure flashed and immediately left the place. After all, this was an ancient Swanee's corpse. If the Swanee race knew about this, who knew what they would do? It was better for him to leave this dangerous place as soon as possible.